What's up, bikers? Welcome to episode 167 of the B1KER Bar Podcast. I'm not going to say live stream. You like how I did that? Man, it's just still there. I just want to say it every time. Anyways, this is today's guest is Mark Hill from the Segment. You may know. I gotta say the Segment because that's what we all know him as. But if you're looking for his channel on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or something like that, it's the Segment PR. So, anyways, Mark Hill from the Segment. We got him on. It's gonna be a good show. He's always a good guy to talk to, and I apologize didn't get something out last week. Sometimes getting guests not so easy. So here we are. Anyways, let's get on with it. First of all, thank you everybody on Patreon. Honestly, you mean the world to me. I've been thinking about stopping Patreon and just switching over to YouTube's version of that. What do you guys think? Anybody in the comments or later on down the road, you can write in the comments or whatever. I'm just curious because I'm really thinking that I don't know if I want to keep doing it on Patreon. I feel like it'd just be easier if it's on YouTube, but there's some like benefits to having Patreon instead, where it's easy for me to get your address and send you a letter that says thank you for being a Patreon member. It's not as easy on YouTube. So stuff like that, but or like send me stickers. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Let me know. Anyways, everybody out there, I really appreciate you all keeping the beer fridge stocked, helping out with the camera gear, the lighting, all this stuff that makes the channels happen. I really, truly appreciate it. This is a grassroots thing at this point. No sponsors, just Patreon. I would love to have it only be Patreon, but one of these days, somebody's gonna step up to you, help you guys out. Anyways, if you haven't followed me on Instagram or Facebook, please do that. I like seeing those numbers grow, and it makes me feel good about myself. So it makes me want to keep doing content. Same thing. If you're watching on YouTube, you know how to do YouTube things, the likes, the subscribes, all those things. If you have a friend that you think might be interested in this podcast, share it with them. Send them a link. That'll really help. I'd love to see this thing keep growing. So let's do that together. I need you guys for that. So anyways, here we go. What's going on? Oh God, is my mic messed up? No, this happens to me sometimes. You know, it does say it is all jacked up. Here we go. How's that? Good Lord. You think that I would learn how to podcast by now? At least Mark was nice enough to let me know within the first 5 minutes that I done fucked up. So anyways, here we are. Sweet. Let's bring Mark on since apparently he knows how to podcast better than me. What's up?
What's up, Robert? Cheers, my brother.
Cheers, dude. I need to crack this one open here.
Heck yeah, B1KER Bar. Ooh, give us that sound.
As you know, I just
that sounds delightful.
Walked in the door, so
cheers. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, same to you, man. So I'm gonna tell you right now, Mark.
Yes,
this is not your podcast.
Yes,
this is my podcast.
I
and on Joey my podcast, it's you and me talking. All right. I know you love to talk to everybody in the comments, and maybe we'll do that a little bit, but it's you and me talking. All right.
Yes. I don't see them over there.
Whenever we're on your podcast, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you haven't invited me over there, so I don't know. I mean, come on.
I had you on. I got to get you back on soon.
Right? Dude, I was looking at your show the other day, and first of all, thank you for telling me about the mic. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah.
This thing just likes to fuck up every once in a while. Especially when I'm in a hurry, so I don't have to check. I don't always check those things, so appreciate that. I was looking at your podcast just the other day, though, and your episode count, it's up there, dude. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, we just finished doing episode 133, and it was awesome. I had a lot of the guests that I have on the show have already been through the B1KER Bar, and I even tell them, shoot, if you guys have been through the B1KER Bar, I always consider you the big show. And so when they come over, I try to keep it nice and like calm for them in case they're a little nervous. Just me being a podcaster, being on this side, I was nervous, dude, before we started the show.
Are you serious?
Always, man. Heck yeah. This is the B1KER Bar, man. Are you kidding? Heck
That's
yeah.
so funny to me. Because to me, like,
I mean, obviously it's my thing, but like to me, I'm like, dude, this show's so laid back. Why would anybody be nervous?
You're the big show, brother. You're the big show. But yeah, man, we just got done recording episode 133. Had the guys on, the really nice guys on from Freedom Coast
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah, I had
yeah,
those
and
guys
Better
on.
Bolts. Yeah,
Yeah.
super good guys. And it was perfect timing. It was right before the big sales for the holiday weekend. And man,
Mhm.
they invited us over to the factory. We got a chance to see how a lot of the things were made, how
Mhm.
they CNC machine everything. It's crazy, man. It was like being a kid in the candy store. On our podcast, Joey Yates is our podcast engineer, and he's really good with building things. And
Mhm.
man, it was hard to keep him away from putting his hands in all the different bits and parts and
Yeah.
pieces that he could get his hands into. But
That's right that
yeah,
you're down. I mean, that they're down local to you too. There's a handful of people that I've interviewed that are in your area, so it's easier. There's a lot of bike industry stuff down there, so it's a lot easier for you to get over there and like go like meet up with people and stuff like that. That's super cool.
yeah, I feel lucky in that sense. There's so many of them out this way, and because they'd been on your show, I had a chance to kind of do a little bit of homework, for background
Mhm.
and come up with the questions and things like that and see what they're up to.
That's
So,
cool. So you plan questions out ahead of time?
no, I don't like really I kind of get like a general idea of what I might ask them, but I don't ever write them down, but it just gives me enough content to wonder, like to have like that
Yeah.
natural like, "Hey, how does that work?" And "What are you
Yeah.
guys doing there?" type of thing.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do that. It depends, like not very often, but sometimes I'll do that where I just like maybe if it's somebody that I reached out to that I don't really know anything about, you know what I mean? Like, um, then maybe I'll take a look at their website or their channel and look at a couple of videos that like will spark me to at least have a couple questions to start with. But for the most part, I like to keep it completely like just let it flow however it happens. And if we talk about the latest movie or what we've been watching on Netflix for 20 minutes, I don't really care. I think that it's more fun just kind of really getting to know somebody, you know?
Totally, totally. It's fun because in this long format, it can be so just genuine, just like a real nice
Hmm.
conversation because we don't really get a chance to do this very often in our busy days and busy lives.
Hmm.
It's nice to be able to just slow down and just get into a good conversation. It's fun. And you
Yeah,
never
yeah.
know where it's gonna go. If you don't plan it out, like, crossing the T's and
Mhm.
dotting the I's, you never know where it's gonna go. And that's part of the fun too as a podcaster.
Yeah, that's the thing that actually got me to start was I wanted a Joe Rogan mountain bike podcast. That's really what I wanted. And I mean, that's what we're explaining, right? And every podcast that I listened to, there was like some kind of agenda or some kind of questions or just things that didn't really have that feel to it to me. And so I just was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own. And then I got tired of doing it after about a year of just, because I tried to stay on a schedule. That way people would really know, like, hey, it's every Sunday at 7 o'clock or whatever time it was that I was doing it. And then it just got in the way of my weekend so much that I could never like go on a weekend camping trip all weekend or for a 4-day weekend or something like that. And by the end of it, of the first year, I was just like, I'm over it. I'm gonna stop doing this, right? And then the same thing happened to me all over again. It was like a couple months later. I was like, man, I want to listen to a mountain bike podcast. And I started listening to whatever was on. I was like, "Mm."
It was too scripted, right? Too polished,
Yeah,
too yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just really enjoy the loose conversation, and I don't know. I think I'm just a naturally inquisitive person as well, so it's pretty easy for me just to keep asking questions because I don't know. Maybe it's the ADD or something, you know.
No, I think that's the best place to be, like, to be present in that conversation with whoever you're talking to and being inquisitive, like you said. It's, you're always gonna learn something too, which is very cool. Especially in our world of mountain biking. I mean, I'm not a pro mountain biker. I'm far from it. I've only been doing this since the pandemic started. So man, I'm like really hungry to learn about all this
Mhm.
stuff, whether it's parts or how companies work or how these people think and the way they ride. So it's been great. And this is something that's cool you could do whether you're hurt or
Yeah.
not, or you rip or you don't.
Yeah.
It's all good information.
Yeah, like, you don't have to be a good writer to have an opinion.
Yeah.
So, it's really good for me, otherwise, I'm just I mean,
Me
anybody's
too.
seen my POV content, obviously. I'm no
Would we
pro, that's for sure.
Robert, would we qualify as bumblers?
Oh, yeah, we're 100% bumblers, man. Definitely where my channel started was really bumbling, and, I'd say I'm definitely a better writer now. I'm still by pink bike standards, I'm a bumbler, but, it's definitely a different level of bumbling.
Yeah. What are their standards for and, like, do you go from bumbler to, like, then you can post stuff? Is that how I don't know. I didn't see
Yeah.
the
Did you watch, Lone Ranger's video?
I did. That was
Okay.
excellent. Yeah, he
I
did
feel like
a
that might give you enough context. I think there's
yeah.
a lot of other history to the whole pink bike thing other than just what Lone Ranger touched base on, but, ultimately, I think the gist of it was really captured in that video where, um, there's I don't know if I'm gonna use any of the right words, so apologize. I've also had a couple of post-ride beers, so, um,
That's why it's
I
called the
think
biker bar.
yeah, exactly, dude. It's a bar for a reason. Everybody's got an opinion. But what I was getting at is, like, there's definitely a level of, like, I think elitism on
Mm,
pink bike maybe, and I don't know if it's, like, on purpose or if it's, like, maybe because we in our scope don't think we're good enough, and we feel that, because like, sometimes, like, when you get upset, it's really, like, something that's actually internal. You know what I'm saying?
right. Totally.
So
Totally.
maybe it's some of that. I think it's a conglomeration of a bunch of things, but there's definitely been, like, like, "Hey, here's a cartoon drawing of pro riders and YouTubers are, like, sucking all the money out of the marketing company," or you know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
there's definitely been a long history of things, that are pretty clear of what their stance is, or at least maybe that what they like to poke fun at, and,
Mhm.
I think that's what you seen erupt there, and to be honest, if it wasn't true, like, the way that people feel, you wouldn't have seen the response that Lone Ranger got. You
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely been a big response to it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think just the sheer numbers of regular mountain bikers out there having a good time with a GoPro outweigh those, the people there at or whoever Henry, I think it was it Henry and maybe one
Yeah, it
other
doesn't
person,
matter.
whatever they
Yeah.
said. I'm sure the sheer number just outweighs all that. But and then again, too, it was a snippet. So, if you were to run into those guys out on the trails, would they really feel like that? Would they really say
Yeah,
that to who knows? But
yeah.
it sounds like it was been an ongoing thing. And so
But
I'm glad.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, I agree, and some of it is, you get to doing an interview and you maybe forget about the audience that's listening, and maybe there's some things that you wouldn't have said that, um, you would have if you were standing on a stage in front of all those people. You know
True.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd totally give those guys the benefit of the doubt, and Pink Bike does great content, and regardless of, like, the things that we just talked about, like, I still think that it's a really valuable asset to the mountain bike industry of what they're doing, and obviously, like, where they came from to where they are is just like, it's obvious that they've put the work in to earn the spot that they're in. So, I 100% don't wanna, like, point any fingers or, like, talk any trash that, like, in that aspect, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was definitely a blip on the map, though. It seems like,
Yeah,
as far as people just going, hey, wait, what was that? And how they I don't know if they responded to Lone Ranger yet or what, but hopefully it just kind of all goes away because the whole sport is for fun. We're all having a great time, whether you race or you're creative or
Yeah.
you just need to get out and get some exercise. You know,
Yeah, I
it's
think
all
at the end
fun.
of the day, I mean, that's really what everybody's doing is like expressing their love for the sport, and everybody has their own opinions and everybody has their own friend groups, and things that I may like to ride could be completely opposite of what you like to ride, and so on and so forth. So, at like to me, at the end of the day, like I think it was fun to like get the internet excited to see the internet excited for a few weeks, but
Yes.
just like you said, it's just going to pass over. Nobody's going to remember this in like a couple of months. It'll be something else, So,
Yeah.
like,
But did Pink Bike miss the Friday fails? I think I was talking to a friend and apparently did it come out or did I just
I don't
unsubscribe?
know. I don't really
Oh,
follow Pink
shoot.
Bike. Like, they're the only thing that I've honestly ever used Pink Bike for in all the years that I've ridden is just to buy or sell something on their platform. And I
Mm,
guess you could say Trail Forks because that's part of them too. But
mhm.
um, yeah, as far as going to their website, I think I've gone to the forums or whatever they are like once or twice and maybe tried to make a post, and it just didn't feel like it just didn't really like click with me. I wasn't in that user group.
Yeah.
So I really don't use it. And other than that, I don't watch much of their content. I mean, obviously the Friday fails just they like come up on your feed no matter what you're on. So
Yeah. Instagram,
um
TikTok shows up
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right before a ride, usually right before a gnarly trail that you wanna try a new feature,
Right,
and you look
right.
down, you're like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
I didn't need to see that before dropping in on this."
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, one of my buddies talked me into watching that show where it was like the little reality show that they did, and I will say that I really enjoyed watching that once I
Yeah,
started.
the Academy. Yes, hats off
Yeah,
to that show. That show was sick. Um,
yeah.
I got lucky and had, Amanda Hamilton from one of the seasons
Oh,
on
sweet.
the podcast, and what was cool about it is that I didn't
How'd
see
that
that
happen?
by happenstance. She was riding with a friend of mine, Eric, riding dirty out in Arizona. They went to New Mexico, and they were riding
Mhm.
the bike park out there, and he ran into this girl who was having a blast out there with her husband, and they ended up all riding together. And he texted me, said, "Hey, I've got this writer that should be on your show. She's freaking awesome. She's ripped. She's funny." And I said, "Absolutely, let's get her on." Not even knowing that she was on Pink Bike Academy. So
Mhm.
had her on the show. That's how far back my research goes. Had her on the show. We had a good time. After the show, post show, I found out that she was on Pink Bike Academy. And I was like, "Oh my God." I immediately was like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't do my homework to look that up." And she goes, "Oh no, I don't want to be known as just that." So I was
What
really
was her name?
happy you did it. Amanda Hamilton from
Okay.
I think it was season 3, Pink Bike. She's
I'm looking her up while you're doing it. That way I
yeah,
can see which one we're talking about.
she is a shredder. And
That's super
she's
rad though, man. I reached out to somebody from the show. I can't remember who it was I was trying to get on. I thought they would be fun to talk to, and I'm like right now realizing that there might be a season that I didn't watch. I feel like I know I watched the first 2 seasons, but did I miss a season? Oh
yeah,
my god.
yeah, type in Amanda Hamilton Pink Bike.
Yeah, I'm looking at her face and I'm not recognizing her. I feel like I didn't watch season 3 then. What the hell? Everything's wrong in my life.
I don't
See, this is
think
how much I actually oh, wait, I think I do recognize her. I think this season 2 maybe. I don't know. I do recognize her in this one picture now that I'm, like, scrolling down. But, yeah, right on, man. That's kinda cool, dude. That's super cool, actually.
yeah,
So, I
it was
wanna ask
fun.
you, what made you decide to podcast? Like I was talking about earlier about why I did. What made
Yeah,
you
dude, so I at the time I started mountain biking, it was always that question when you're driving by those $1,000,000 homes and you're like, "Man, if I could just talk to those people and find out what they did to get there, wouldn't that be
Mhm.
cool?" And I always had that kinda thought, that intuitive thought in my head. And then I started mountain biking and I started seeing all these, like, and I got on Strava and I started seeing all these KOMs and all these rippers. So I thought of the idea of the segment. So the segment YouTube channel was started as trying to document people that are moving from the ordinary to the extraordinary, what they're doing to beat their PR, whether it's diet, working out, whatever it is. And then as I started trying to set up those episodes, I started noticing every single person had some kind of a story.
Mhm.
And the first couple people that I connected with, one guy had beet cancer. Somebody had lost a ton of weight. So I'm thinking, geez, this would be fun to do as a podcast, and I could learn something. We could learn something from these people, like a little pearl that they have. And so I was listening to a podcast at the time. He doesn't have it anymore, but MTB Allen used to have a podcast called the Air
Yeah.
Horn Podcast. And I
Mhm.
reached out to him and asked, "Hey, would you like to be on an episode, a show?" I'm trying to start one up. It was Zoom at the time because I had no idea
Mhm.
StreamYard was a thing. And MTB Allen said, "Yeah, let's do it, but let's jump on a thing called StreamYard and let's record it that way." And I just never
Mhm.
stopped. I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is not only was that a need for me to be able to do something like that, but I think for work, I'm in sales. So a lot of times I have all this information and knowledge and I want to get it out and talk to the person that I'm talking to, that
Mhm.
I'm supposed to talk to.
Mhm.
And in the world of sales that I'm in, these folks are so busy that I get like 10 seconds, 15 seconds,
Mhm.
30 seconds most of the time. So I'm like, man, I can actually talk to somebody long form for a while and
Mhm.
have a conversation. I realized I was really like yearning for that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, once I
How
did my
long are
first
your
episode, it
shows?
was good. I keep them to about, they started as 2 hours, they went down to an hour. The last couple shows, at an hour, I look up and then I just let it go until it feels like it's starting to taper off.
Mhm.
And those have been ending about an hour and a half.
Mhm. My experience is that the second hour is always better than the first.
I, dude, you've told me that before, and
Yeah. And
you're,
maybe it's just me personally, but
well,
um I feel like after the first hour, like people like you get through like the bullshit part of the conversation. And like I'm not trying to like downplay the first hour of any of the podcasts, but like
how dare you?
when I say bullshit, it's like the typical stuff that you would ask, like, "Hey, where are you from? Like, how'd you get into this? Like,
What's
why
your
did you
favorite
start this
color?
business?"
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And like I feel like the second hour is like when you just start when the person kind of relaxes a little bit and they realize that I don't have some agenda. I'm not trying to like put them up against the wall on something. They realize that I'll pick up the conversation whenever they're struggling or whatever, you know what I mean? So they start to feel
Right.
comfortable. And
Yeah.
then I feel like at that point is whenever it's it just becomes more of an actual natural conversation where people can just kind of be who they are. And I at least put it this way, I enjoy the second hour better than the first hour personally. So
Yeah. I could see that, man, because in the first hour, you're right. There's so many things you want to like talk about starting from scratch to
right.
help build out their story on your platform. And then you start to get into it and it's like, oh man, it's already an hour. Then I'm like trying to shut the show down. But lately with it going to an hour and a half, it's been nice because from 0 to 60 minutes is that kind of building out the character.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
from 60 minutes to 90 minutes, it's like, where did that time go? It went so fast.
Hmm.
So I could completely see it. And then another fellow podcaster, Johnny Yu from Mountain Bike Q&A, he does 2 hours. And he said
Hmm.
the exact same thing you did. That
Yeah.
second hour is like you get into like the deeper stuff, the natural stuff, the good stuff starts coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a conversation I had that one that's like popping up in my head is one with Seth. And I remember we were talking about, I think we were talking about like 3D printing or something like that. And we were going on and on and on about it. And at one point he's like, "Hey, you know, maybe we should get back to bikes, like people don't want to hear about this." And I was like, "No, actually they do, and at least in my eyes, because whenever I was um before I was doing YouTube, if I was watching, let's just say BKXE, I would want to like watch any interview that he had to like just kind of like learn about like who he is as a person instead of just like how he feels about bikes.
Yeah.
And to me, those like offbeat conversations is where you learn that about a person
Yeah.
instead of
Special.
just like what their opinion is on bikes. And I feel like that's special compared to like, hey, let me have a list of questions for you. That's going to be like, what's your favorite suspension? How do you make videos? You're like, what's, you know what I mean? And like, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously we'll talk about those things because those things are interesting as well. But I think that like, to me, it's like, you know, you start ranting about your favorite TV show or something like that. And then it's like, oh, I can relate with this person because like, oh, maybe that show is one that I think is awesome too. Or you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It becomes more natural versus you're already asking the next question before they're done finishing answering, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. As
Dude,
long as I can go ahead.
I was going to say, well, were you nervous when you had Seth on the show? That's like,
Out of all the shows that I did, the first time that I was ever nervous, I feel like there was another time, but I can't remember what the other one is right now. But the only time that I remember being nervous was the first time I had him on the show.
ooh,
It was like he was actually the very first person that I ever went and like did any like pre-prep to like look around on the internet for some questions or like things like I found some old videos of him when he was making videos for the audio shop that he worked at or something like that.
that's
So
right.
it was like, but that was the first time I ever did that, like ever did that. Before that, I never looked at anything. And maybe that helped me because then later I had, you know, I'll take some time here, like I said earlier in the show, like to look things up or I don't put a lot of effort into it, but it definitely changed things on me. But man, I was because he's like he's the guy. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? When it comes to
totally.
yeah.
Holy cow.
So,
Yeah. When,
how
man,
about you? Were you nervous on every one of them? Was there somebody
dude,
in particular you're super nervous on?
I still get nervous on him, man, just because I think I like have fun doing them, you know? And there's just
Mhm,
this level of you're putting yourself out there. And then there's another layer that the person who's coming on your show is trusting you that
mhm,
you're gonna do good by them. At least that's what's going on in my head. And
mhm,
so there's like a little feeling of responsibility to hopefully help them shine. And so I'm
mhm.
like, okay, here we go, baby. Like before the show,
Yeah,
I always say something like, let's have a good show. Let's make a difference. Something like that. I can't remember what I say,
yeah.
but I definitely felt
I'm
that.
so narcissistic. I'm like, this is gonna be great. Don't worry about it. I got you, man.
Sometimes I think that Joey and I have like imposter syndrome because we'll be sitting there like we had Seth on the show and I had met him in Bentonville and I was talking with his, I think it's his producer, Daniel, and everything
Mhm,
was like booking through Daniel. And he goes, no problem, Seth will be there 11 a.m. You know, so I took the day off to make sure I could host the show and everything.
mhm.
And Joey and I are looking at each other on screen and we're like, dude, we got Seth on the show. Like, I have like 2,000 followers. Does he even know that I'm an
Yeah,
imposter? Like, I'm this tiny little show, but we're just so amazed because we're big fans. And then, man, blip, he comes on and it's showtime. And it's such a good memory. It's so fun. But boy, there's those moments where you're like, I can't believe it, dude. This is
yeah.
fun.
Was that the one you were the most excited about?
There's been a lot for different reasons. Seth was I
Mhm,
was excited about for his because he's the guy, you know,
mhm.
the biggest. I mean, he's got to be the biggest watched person in our sport, and
I feel
so
like with him, it also comes with this like, well, I don't know how he's gonna share this. Like it could totally change things. Like you could get like overnight, maybe I got another 5,000 followers because
dude,
he's got 1 million, you know, or three
dude,
million or whatever, you know,
he's like Oprah,
like
like you get a
yeah,
follower, you get a
right.
follower.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a little pressure with that, you know.
Yes. Somebody had told me before he jumped on too, was like, "Hey, you know, sometimes Seth doesn't open up. So,
Mhm.
um, so just be prepared." So I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
what does that mean? What does that mean? Am I not allowed to ask certain things or can I ask whatever? And is he going to avoid my questions?" And, you know, but
yeah.
we had a good
He's
experience.
I think my impression is that like he knows his brand, you know what I mean? And he knows like what he's like really good at. And how do I say this? Like he's a business, like an all business kind of person. Like
Mhm.
not that not saying that in like a negative way, but like he's one of those people that, I mean, you can tell by the success of what he's done and what he shows on like get up and grind all day,
all
and then until
day.
you go to sleep, and
Yeah.
then dream about grinding, and then wake up and grind some more. You know what I mean? And it's apparent, you know, like when you talk to him. So I it he's got a good poker face too. So where it, you know, first of all, being on this digital medium, it's hard to like get all the cues off of somebody.
Yeah, their
And
body language and stuff.
yeah, and because of the way that he communicates as well, it at times will make you think that like, oh, is he like bored right now, or like he's not digging it? But I think he's just got a poker face, and then on top of that is, you know, the pressure of, hey, this is the biggest guy, right? You know, so um yeah. I definitely, after my first show with him, I relaxed from it. I've had him on a couple of times, and now I just go into it where it's like,
Like,
we're just gonna bullshit at this point. Like, there's nothing I'm gonna dig up that's gonna be like, hey, let's talk about that. So I think it's fun in that aspect now, where it's like I am actually looking forward to us talking about, you know, what we watch on Netflix for an hour instead of whatever else, because I think that's like the most like important part of it, of the interview at that point, you know. And
yeah,
I
get
don't,
into.
have you had people on more than once at this point?
Yeah, I have. I have had a good buddy of mine, Adam Mock. He's a life coach
Mm-hmm.
and fellow mountain biker, and we've done things with him around like mental health awareness. You know, Ride and Shine that we do up in
Mm-hmm.
the Arrowhead Mountains, and so I've
Yeah.
had him on a couple times, and I actually had him back on just before the holidays started because I realized that holidays could be tough, man, for a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
mentally. Just everyone has so much crap going on, and
Mm-hmm.
holidays can be happy, but what boy, when they're sad, they can, you know, suicide rates go up, all kinds of negative
Mm-hmm.
things can happen. So yeah, I've had him on for things like that, just to give a bump out there. You know,
Yeah.
I don't say I've got this huge podcast, but I mean, there's definitely people listening and it's in 38 countries. I don't know who needs to hear some of these things, but you know, it's
Yeah.
nice when you have somebody like that you can just have back on.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I ask is like, you know, the first time you have an interview, I'm going to use Tasco because you got their decal on your mic there.
Yeah.
But like the first time you have Tasco on, I talked to Nate about, you know, how he started the company and what the, like, how do you figure out how to make shirts, or how do you figure out how to make gloves, and how do you make these things happen? And there's a lot of real good conversation about that stuff. But the second time you have somebody on, like, okay, well, maybe somebody that's just now listening to the podcast didn't hear that first episode. So there has to be a little bit of that, but you also don't want to like do that all over again, you
Right.
know? So I was just curious to like how you attack those second or third visits. Do you just go into it like everybody knows who they are, or what do you
That's a
think?
good question. I think the last time I had Nate on as an example for his second time, I definitely before the show I said, "Hey, let's just run through an abbreviated version of your history to catch anybody up who doesn't know how this all started." And then
Yeah.
once we got through that, I wanted to find out some of the newer things. He was going into the aqua world with his gloves and jet
Hmm.
skiing. Recently, he had a heart attack, so I tried to dive into that. But then
Hmm.
again, I didn't patch it through with him at first, so I wasn't sure what he was willing to share or comfortable sharing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like tricky, you know. You kind of have to
Yeah.
like lay it out there just softly, and then if it lands, then you can dig into it more.
Yeah.
And then also what he was doing for racing. He's preparing for all of these crazy XC races.
Yeah.
And so that filled up the time quick. And then before I knew it was an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It was good. But you're
Yeah.
right.
Every time you get
Obedience.
off the show, you're like, man, there was like 15 things that I wanted to talk to them about that I forgot completely.
That's the worst when you're trying to go to bed. You're like, damn it. Damn it.
Yeah, I know. Like when we were talking about Seth, there was a handful of things that I was like, oh man, this would have been really cool to talk about. But you just start getting in the conversation and shit happens. So it is
Yeah.
what it is.
I forget what guest I had on, but at some point we started talking about aliens. And
That sounds fun.
that was so fun. And I wanted to dig really deep into it, but it was at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So I was like, gosh dang it, I'm gonna have to have this person back on. Talk about
Right.
aliens.
All right. Let's do it. Where you at on the alien thing?
I think there has got to be no way that in this whole universe that we are alone. That's
Yeah.
just, to me, that sounds statistically impossible.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm very analytical. So the statistical probability of it to me is just like there's zero possibility in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that it's not the case. But I think the bigger question is like the thing that boggles my mind is traveling the distance, you know?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the thing where when I was in college, I was doing all these math classes because I was like basically a degree I was shooting for a lot of math, right?
Oh,
So
mathematics? You were gonna do
yeah.
that?
No,
Oh,
I was going for like originally when I was going to college, they didn't have a IT degree other than computer science
uh-huh.
or business management. I forget what they call it. It's another computer science, but management basically. And so for that, like there you have to get to a certain level of math, right? And so I was doing all this math, and math is not my strong suit. Like I've always told my kids and anybody that wants to listen to me that there's two types of people in the world. There's English people and there's math people, and you're never both. You're always better at one. And obviously I'm hosting the podcast. I'm an English person. Like I can talk, I can tell stories, like that's my thing, right? But math, I always had to put a lot of effort into. So, anyways, I digress.
No.
The thing was that so I start doing all this math and I'm like, okay, well, I need to use this some kind of way that's practical just because my mind wanders. And at one point I'm like, okay, well, let's think about how long it would take for me to get to the next star. And I think the next closest star is like 4.5 light years away or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna guess. Like this is, pre-internet or internet was going, but I wasn't using it. Put it that way. And
Dial
I'm
up
like,
back.
okay, so let's just think that maybe like 25 or 30,000 miles an hour is like the max of what we can do right now, right? So I'm like, okay, well, let me figure out how long it would take me to get to that star at this like current speed.
True.
Dude, it was like 100,000 years or some shit like that,
Right.
man.
Right.
And like 30,000 miles an hour sounds ridiculously fast. You know
So
what I mean?
fast. So
Right?
fast.
But it's
Heck
like
yeah.
nothing compared to the speed of light. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Was that like 30 Mach or something like that? No,
Yeah,
it's
who
faster
knows?
than that. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
because Mach is like a Mach, I think is like 800 miles an hour or something like that. If
Something
I remember.
crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's the
that's
hard
at the
part for
speed
us
of
to
sound, though.
comprehend.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. And that's the
light is
hard part.
ridiculous.
It is for us to think in linear time and space is like there's no way.
Yeah,
But if there's ways that we haven't thought of yet to travel vast distances to, like, what was it? It was when they were studying some of the atoms, when they were looking at how if you can affect one here in the US, but in Germany, it can happen like instantaneously, whatever
yeah,
that
it's like particles. I think is what you're talking about. I can't
correct.
think of it right now. It's like
Ye
these like two different particles are attached to each other, and it does like the space of the amount of distance in between them doesn't matter.
Yeah, right. It doesn't
It's
matter
like
how far.
subatomic. Yeah.
Right. So it makes you wonder if there's anything in there that we just haven't figured out yet. I
Yeah.
think Einstein was working on that, but he died with an incomplete formula there. Um, so there's got to be stuff. There's got to be
Yeah.
stuff.
No,
Conscious.
I think that yeah, somebody in the comments says quantum entanglement, and
That's
that's it.
it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I think without a doubt, that's the truth of the matter is it's just stuff that we don't understand,
Yeah.
and the way that I think about it though is like the more that you know, the bigger that everything gets, right? So like
Right.
right now, we're talking about our universe. I guarantee you there's more than one universe.
Dude, I don't think they
You know
know
what I
where the
mean?
end of the
Like
universe
there's just
is.
as many universes as there is like galaxies. But right now
Right.
we're like
Right.
mind
We
blown.
can
Like a billion galaxies, and we're like, there's no way, I can't even wrap my head around it. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
now think about that, but now there's universes with a billion galaxies in it, you know?
Right. And then us being like the only one is talk about narcissistic. Like we
Right.
are the only one.
Right.
That
All
sounds
right.
that
So Trail
sounds
Dogs wants us
silly.
to talk about aliens. So this is where I'm going to bring it back, just because
Yes.
the only reason I'm bringing that up for you, Mark, because I know
I
you
love
like to
it.
interact with the people. So there we go.
Yes.
Trail Dogs
Yo, Trail
MTV.
Dogs, what's up? Am I allowed to say, hey, Steve Spokesman? I'm getting all the shout outs and Beyond X. What's sorry.
I gave Mark an avenue and he took off. No, but,
Trail
so
Pim.
they're just, so I'm one of those people that like,
Joey.
maybe it's the ADD or whatever, but I'm like constantly thinking about all kinds of weird shit, you know, like when I was doing math, maybe one day I'm walking to school and I'm thinking to myself, how long would it take me to walk to the moon? And I would just like figure that shit out, you know, like
That was
this is the
Siri,
kind of
by the
weird
way.
shit that's always going through my head, right? So
Mhm.
anyways, my latest thing on the scope of aliens
Okay.
that I've been thinking about. Did
Give
you
it to
watch
me.
all those or any of the clips of those congressional hearings where they're like, yes, there's definitely biologics that we found that are not human? Have you watched that?
Yes.
So,
Yes. I loved all that
so
stuff.
exactly. But the thing about that conversation that really stood out to me was the lady said to him, have you found alien life forms? And he said, we have found biologics that aren't human.
Yes.
So what I heard in that sentence was there's a possibility that these things that we're seeing flying around are actually here on this planet.
That have been here
So
for
like
years.
maybe they found biologics and then they go and they test the DNA and they look at it and they're like, wait a minute, like this is like matching us in some way.
Mhm.
So now we can't like now what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like are
Blows your mind.
they so then you start thinking about it, right? So you're like, okay, well, I am, let's just say that I am as much smarter than an ant as these aliens that are flying around that are blowing our fucking mind are than us, right? I do not hang out with ants. I don't try to communicate with them. I just do my own fucking thing, and every once in a while they see me, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, like, what if these aliens are like living on the bottom of the ocean? They're just like, choop, 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 you know, and they're like every
Yeah.
once in a while, like they get caught on video, and they're yeah, well, we're not trying to talk to these guys. We don't give a fuck about these guys.
Yeah.
You know, these guys
I
are
knew
ants.
I knew I left that GoPro somewhere.
Right? Exactly. They're just flying around. You know, maybe alien like ocean alien is like drunk one day and he's just like sitting on the side of the road, like fuck, man, I'm gonna get popped if I don't get my shit together. And that's how the Navy catches them on film. You know, it's like
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. They're bored, like, oh, I don't have any magnifying glasses to get these
yeah,
guys. So
yeah,
we just drop some technology here.
right, yeah. So that's
Well, dude,
that's
you're right. I mean, what do they say we know about the ocean? Is it 1%? No, that's
oh,
space.
it's yeah,
Is it 1% of space?
it's ridiculous. Like what we know about the ocean compared to what we know about above the ground. And to be
Yeah.
quite frank, like we don't know shit about what's above the ground either.
I know
So
they're constantly like, like sharks, for example. They're like, well, apparently this shark is going to the Bahamas because of the warm water. Oh shit, we just saw them in Alaska feeding on some kind of sea lion. Didn't realize that they did that. Like,
right.
and the
So
other thing that's yeah.
did you watch that Netflix show where it's like ancient archaeology or something like that? There's like that guy, he's been on Rogan a handful of times. It's like I
Oh
think
yeah,
that like
John Hancock, John Han.
yes, yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yeah,
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
yes.
I was watching that guy, and that guy, like, you know, gets the brain kind of ticking or whatever. But then there's this other dude on YouTube that's an archaeologist, and he just destroys all of those like
Yes.
theories. And
Yeah.
it's really fun to listen to the other side too, where you're like, man, that guy had me going for a minute, but you listen to this archaeologist and he's like, dude, fact, 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 fact. And you're like, all right, well, now Hancock's a fucking moron.
Right.
Like,
But it's crazy too, because those big like academic universities that are going to be blowing Hancock out of the water, they could be the ones later on going, well, this is exactly what he was saying, and he's right, because they can't just turn on a dime or a hunch. They need so much evidence. But I mean, there are things out there like, was it Göbekli Tepe in Turkey?
Yeah.
That was 12,000 years ago. That predates some of the other ancient things and structures that we found by 6,000 years, and they didn't think there was that much advanced civilization 12,000 years ago, and they dig it up now. Like, what the heck? And I heard that recently they just discovered something that even predates Göbekli Tepe even further.
Yeah, and I think that like the way that I look at it is like this. Everybody in popular science thought that Galileo was a fucking mental patient, right? so like there's definitely going to be somebody nowadays that everybody's going to be like, this guy's a freaking kook, right?
Yeah.
So like I always come into it that way, but like if you ever get a chance, this guy's channel, I'm going to try to click it and see if I can do this without making noise. And all right, so I'm gonna put it in the chat. It's like Mini Minute Man. He's got almost 1.5 million subscribers, and he just like he's an archaeologist. That's about all I know. I did not do any research other than believe what he said. So he could be. If you go to his channel and check it out sometime, you can. I typically like 2 times because I can't handle watching 35 minutes of this stuff like at that speed. But
your brain starts to fry.
Yeah, I just need to like. I'm so ADD. I really should probably go get medication, but I don't want to do that.
That'd be a boring biker bar, bro.
I'm like, what would that be like to think completely different than the way that you think right now? Like that to me is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like even though people are telling me that, hey, things aren't supposed to go that way. I don't like the idea of thinking of the world that doesn't go at like 100 miles an hour. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little scary, that change. Would it affect you differently? Would you still be effective?
Yeah.
Or would you be
Or would
more
it be positive? Like maybe it would be positive in that I would stay more focused on the things that I would want to do. Let's just say like whatever this task is that I'm trying to do. Let's say instead of like halfway through reorganizing some drawer in my camera gear, like I would be able to stay focused on what I was originally doing, maybe editing the video that I need to put out on the channel, right? But would that be better for me as a person to have that focus? Like what's got me to here and the success in life that I've had has been like the way that I've been going about it. Maybe I would be more successful with it. I don't know. That to me is I don't know if I want to fuck with that,
Yeah, true. I mean, maybe you'll be really good at one thing versus having like 5 things in the iron. Because I feel like folks like, if I'm similar to what you're describing, I need a little bit of procrastination for the motivation. You know what I mean? Like, if I have ample time, it's like, okay, well, I can focus on them. We'll get it done. But if there's a couple things going on, you focus on a lot of things at once, and you get a lot of things done.
The way I explain it, I think you're saying the same thing. The way that I say it is, are you ADD too? Is that what I'm getting here?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with it, but I sure do have a lot of
the
irons in
things.
fire.
Okay,
Yeah.
So like, damn it, if I didn't just forget the rant that I was about to go on. What did you say a second ago?
Similar procrastination for the motivation.
Oh, procrastination. Yeah, the way that I always say it is that I need pressure to actually make me do things. So, and I think the reason that I do that's part of the reason that I procrastinate. So like if I procrastinate, then I'll get the pressure that is equal to like what I need to actually make me do things. Because if I don't have pressure, I don't even feel fulfilled. And that's part of the reason why I do a YouTube channel and work a full-time job and ride a shitload of bike. And like, I do all these things that occupy so much fucking time that it makes me have pressure every day when I wake up. Otherwise, I'll just like, if I'm not doing all those things, I get depressed really bad. And I get like negative really bad because then I just feel like I'm not doing anything.
Dude, we need the squirrel in our life.
Yes.
If we don't have the squirrel, it's going to be like pretty boring.
Right. So
boring.
Just because we got Mark on the show today, we're gonna play a little bit more with the comments. And so Octodad over here, he's been throwing up a bunch of good questions.
New
But he wants
Zealand,
to know
baby.
what my favorite movie is, but we'll start with what Mark's favorite movie is first.
Oh man, so this is easy. I'm an 80s kid, so it goes back to the Goonies or Back to the Future. And for tonight's episode, based on Newton, Einstein, and all the theories of quantum entanglement, all that stuff, definitely Back to the Future.
That's a good one, man.
Except for when he kisses his mom. When he kisses his mom, that was kind of, I forgot about that part, and I had my son watch it. I'm like, this is one of the best movies ever. And then the part where his mom kisses him, I was like, oh, sorry about that, son.
Well, he didn't kiss his mom. His mom kissed him.
Yeah, that's even weirder.
Yeah, but at least he didn't do it. Come on.
That's true. That's true. McFly, you're yeah, that's true. McFly, you're forgiven.
Yeah. So that's just like, how old are you, Mark?
49.
49. So you're a couple years older than me. I think if I'm doing my math correctly, I think I'm 46. Isn't it so fun to be at the point where you can't remember how fucking old you are?
How many mocks is that? Is that one
right?
mock, two? Speed us
Yeah. So I don't know if you did this to your kids, but I made my kids watch every movie that I grew up with. So they are very well versed in the 80s and the 90s, to the point that my daughter did a trivia thing at school when she was in high school and beat the teacher on like movies that were from his childhood. And he's like, how do you know this? And he's like, because my dad is a good dad.
My dad is an 80s kid.
Yeah.
I don't think
definitely go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I don't think you can make movies from the 80s. I don't think you can make those today.
Oh, it would be definitely like if you go back and watch them, it's kind of unbelievable the shit that they're saying and doing.
Yeah.
Compare like in light of today's standards, like I remember in my mind watching Short Circuit as a young child. So I would have been really in the like probably in elementary school, right? In the lower grades of elementary school. And I remember just thinking it was a robot movie and the robot was really funny, right?
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Dr. Pepper. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I put that thing on for my kids when they were like 6 because I was thinking, okay, and holy shit, if that guy doesn't say a lot of fucked up stuff.
Because wasn't there the guy who was playing the Indian character that there was a lot of comedy in the
I would imagine there's probably a lot of racial stereotypes and a lot of like, just I mean like in my mind the only thing that I remember is like my mother was a snowblower, but like what really happened was a whole lot of cussing and a lot of things that just by today's standards just don't line up the same. So I agree with you. I don't think you could make them.
Nerds, Porky's, Police Academy.
Yeah.
I mean, epic shows, funny. Even down to the Three Stooges, and that was more sitcom stuff.
Yeah. I don't think they're funny to like they may not be funny in the same light to people that are the same age today as they were when we watched it, just because of the way that society is,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I agree with you though. I love the 80s and 90s movies. Goonies is hands down the movie that I've seen the most time in my life. Like I've watched that with the kids so many times. I've watched it's just like it is such like a good it's such a fun story. It's so like it invokes all those things in a young kid's mind of like adventure and
Treasure map.
money and treasure and
Yes.
like all those things that are
Yeah.
fun to kids, right?
Full on
And
hero's
bank
journey.
robbers and pirates and and
Yes.
like
Bullet holes.
the beautiful girl or the
Yeah.
like
Andy.
all of that. Yeah.
Yes.
It does a good job of that. But if I'm answering this, like my knee-jerk reaction when somebody asks me my favorite movie, it's always Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And that probably tells you a lot about who I am, but
After this episode, we will burn this one and bury it.
yeah. After this episode, we're all going to take some ayahuasca. No, like yeah. So that to me, I don't know. I've watched that movie damn close to as many times that I've seen Goonies. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
my friends and my roommates and I, when that movie came out, we like studied that movie like it was a like we could have maybe started a cult
With that.
based off of like what happened in that movie.
Yeah, man, there were so many good ones back then. Mannequin was another one that came out. Pretty Woman. Was Pretty Woman in the 80s, or are we in the
That's
90s
probably
now?
90s. That's
We're
probably
going
90s.
90s with Julia Roberts on that
I
one.
mean, let's look. I'll look it up while you talk about it. What did you like about that?
I don't know, just all those kind of like they kind of just were escapism. I mean, a lot of movies today are always escapism, but back then, and maybe it was just because I was a kid, and in your mind you don't know much, so like
Yeah.
yeah, you believe it. Yeah, robot gets struck by lightning and wants Dr. Pepper, and it's and
Right.
is alive. It has a conscience. It's like, man, you're rooting for him. It was always the
That was
hero's journey in
1990
those.
on that one.
That was 90,
Yeah.
and the
But
Goonies
like
was
same with the robot stuff though, is like, do you remember War Games? That one was really good.
trying to remember that one. I remember
War Games was,
RoboCop.
War Games was with Ferris Bueller. I can't think of his name right now. And he was a hacker. And he like wanted to change his grades in high school, and then he accidentally
Oh,
like hacked into this
yeah.
like nuclear kind of thing. And actually he thought he was playing a video game, but he was actually like controlling the fucking nuclear like program. And
Oh.
you don't remember this one?
Man, it's vague. It's
Man,
vague.
Matthew Broderick, thank you.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick. That's a good. Now, Matthew Broderick, wasn't he also the guy? I could be completely blowing this, but there was a movie called.
He
Okay,
did one with monkeys too that I really liked. I can't remember what that one was.
I'm trying to
Somebody's
think.
gonna throw it up there.
Well, yeah. What was the one? Better Off Dead. That was an 80s movie, wasn't it? Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
Or
that was
Paperboy?
definitely
$2 cash. I love that guy. I love that. And he the whole time, like it's all because of a breakup,
Yeah.
broke up with his girlfriend. She's super pretty, and then all of his cartoon drawings would come to life. Van
Oh
Halen would
yeah,
start
I do
playing
remember
them.
that. No, that wasn't Broderick though. That was
Alan Broderick?
that was Cusack, wasn't it?
Oh, that was Cusack.
I'm
Yes,
pretty sure
yes.
that was Cusack. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was a
somebody
good
even
one.
said it in the comments. What do you know? If I was
Yeah.
reading the comments.
Better Off Dead with John Cusack. Yeah, that was a good one. I love that one. I loved when he's at the restaurant, specific scene. He's at the restaurant, he's drawing, he's like totally bummed out and depressed, and he draws the hamburger. And the hamburger comes to life and Van Halen starts playing. That was such a sick scene. I love that scene.
We're
Made me
gonna
want to sleep.
honorable mention MTBTNA here.
Oh.
He throws up Heathers, and it was a classic, and I did not learn my lesson. My ex-wife's name was Heather, so obviously I should have paid more attention. Just another Heather.
That is the lovely and talented Lauren out there out of Miami, Florida. MTVT.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Heather is now, I don't
yeah,
remember.
I talked to her. Yeah, she does a podcast too.
She's with Johnny, Mountain Bike Q&A.
Also hasn't invited me on an episode.
What's cool about that duo is that Johnny U was remember Siskel.
Wait a minute, they're doing one together now?
Well, she's on there, but she should be officially a co-host because she is.
Did she have her own though?
No, but they were.
Oh, I'm mistaking her then with somebody else.
Yeah, Johnny was back in the back in the Siskel and Ebert days of the like serious movie critics. There was a comedian movie critic out of Los Angeles named Johnny U, and that's where MTB Q&A is from. So he had this cool like movie critic review, and Lauren was on some of the episodes. MTV TNA was on some of the episodes. If you Google Johnny U movie critic, you'll see a lot of that stuff. But yeah, man, they were like the bee's knees in Hollywood for the comedy movie critic stuff. So fun.
So what's the TNA stand for in MTV TNA? Because
Yeah,
we've been talking
yeah.
all this 80s
Yeah.
shit. So like my mind is not in probably the right spot.
MTV TNA is taxes and assets.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's exactly what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
she's the business side of the whole. Oh man, but the 80s were
damn it.
good. And dude, the Goonies, the opening scenes when they're like riding their bikes and stuff as a mountain biker, that's when you knew you're going to be a mountain biker. If you love that movie, eventually the bike would stay with you from childhood to adulthood. Had to.
I'm so glad that she laughed at that comment, because otherwise I do these things where I make jokes and then later I just beat myself up about them for like 3 or 4 days. So the fact that she laughed, I'm okay. Now I'm good. So,
Oh, she's awesome. She's
you do
awesome.
that?
Oh yeah. It's hard
man.
to, in today's world when you put yourself out there. We're on the internet, Robert. It's crazy. You could say something. I mean, look at what happened with Pink Bike. Whether they meant it or not, it starts a thing and it becomes reality. And you're like, sheesh. All I meant was I wanted another bagel.
Right. Son of a bitch.
Son of a. How did I get here?
Right. So let's see
aliens, you think for sure.
Oh yeah. I
100%.
put money on it.
Have you seen anything in real life that you're like, what the hell is that?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
So have I. Okay, you go first.
Man, I like, whenever something happens at the time, it's very vivid and you like truly like you believe it, but as time goes and it gets fuzzier, you really start to question it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll paraphrase this whole night as quickly as I can.
No, dude, take your time. This is good. You're hooking me in, bro.
It's not going to be good if I explain it. I'm going to like burn some bridges with the internet if I explain it to the full extent of explaining it.
Oh no.
No, not bad. No, it's just like, I don't know if I really should get into all of that right now. Let's just say you guys know what my favorite movie is. So anyways, me and a bunch of my buddies were out and
in Las Vegas.
We were out almost there in Las Vegas, and we were having a good time. And we kept like watching all this stuff up in the sky. Like, man, what is that? Like, we were always like having these alien conversations. So we're always looking at the sky at night. Right. And one particular night, we saw something that looked like it was as the sun was rising. Okay. And the size of it was
all-nighter.
Yeah, we were up. Yeah, we were definitely up. Like I said, fear and loathing. And there was something that appeared to be a very large craft that was hovering above what we could see from the street that we're driving, that like behind some houses, right? And everybody in the vehicle saw it. And at the time we all like went home, we're like, what the fuck? Like, what was that? Like, holy shit, blew our mind or whatever. And now I just think back and I'm like, you see these things where it's like mass hysteria, not hysteria, but like somehow everybody can like talk each other into fucking thinking that they see something, or I don't know. And so I wonder, I don't know. I don't know if that really means anything. Like, to me, I question whether or not the influences that we were under for the night had anything to do with it. And otherwise, though, to me, it's really like my belief is 100% like statistical, like what we started talking about.
Yeah.
How about you? Let's hear what you got.
No, I mean, just for that, it makes sense. I mean, if you guys were, even if one person was on something and was like, dude, do you see that? The other people could have been like, well, you should probably take a nap. Yeah. We don't see anything. Yeah. But for everybody to see it.
And everybody wasn't on the same substances. We'll just say that. So like, I was drinking, maybe somebody else was doing acid, maybe somebody else was doing blow. I don't fucking know. But
It's all allegedly, by the way.
yeah. So, like, but one way or another, everybody at the time said they saw the same thing. But it's kind of like the Ouija board, right? Like, everybody says they're not moving it, but somebody maybe is.
Yeah,
You
that
know
one
what I mean?
person.
So like
It might.
maybe one person in the car actually saw something and everybody else was like, yes. You know, like, so that's the part to me where it's like, okay, like I don't know. I can't remember if there was anybody sober in the car. There probably was, now that I think about it, because my one friend who was there, his brother didn't indulge like the rest of us did. But anyways.
Dude, you see that? Yes, we did.
Right.
No, that's so I mean, who knows, right? Because it's not, that wasn't anything on your mind. It just happened to be something that you guys saw. Who knows what it was, but that's always interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your story, let's hear it.
So 2004, I remember this year.
You have a microchip under your skin. That's where I want to start.
So I have this thing under my skin here. No, 2004, I was living down in a little town in SoCal called Del Mar. It's in San Diego County. And I was a surfer boy, and I lived right on the beach. There was an apartment complex that I lived on. It faced the ocean. Every night, my bedroom, I could look out and I could see the Pacific Ocean. I could see the moon. There would always be these lobster fishermen on the reef with their flashlights, and like it'd be pitch black. And then all of a sudden the ocean would light up in a certain spot. And you're like, what's that? And then you realize it's a lobster fisherman or a crab fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2004, a bunch of buddies started saying like they were seeing some weird stuff at night. I'm like, yeah, it's a lobster fisherman, right? I see those too. And some of the guys were saying, no, it's weird. It's like this light starts in the ocean and then it just boom, zings up to the sky. And they're like, what? Nobody knew what the heck that was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all within like this 2-week period. And so I always thought it was interesting. I had never seen anything like that. And so one night, my dog, she needed to go to the restroom. So we had this bluff that you could walk along, like right outside the apartment complex. You could walk along this bluff, see the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking with her, and she gets, when a dog gets surprised, which is not very often because they have such good senses.
Yeah.
She's walking in front of me, and all of a sudden she kind of scrouches to the ground and runs off to the side. I'm like, what the heck? And I looked over to the left, which is the Pacific Ocean, and there was something that was just moving along, nice and steady, super quiet, right on past me. And it had zero lights on. I don't know what it was, but it was quiet. It snuck up on Ollie and I, and I'll never forget whatever that was. I was just like, what the hell was that? That was crazy. Yeah. Slow and quiet. No lights.
I think there's a lot of things that we just don't understand. Like, you believe in ghosts?
I kind of want to. I want to.
Right.
I haven't seen anything.
Sometimes I don't want to.
Yeah, depends on the ghost. I mean, we're talking Casper, man. I want to believe in that, but all that poltergeist stuff, no thanks.
Yeah, that's weird. It's like, how much of that shit's just like made the fuck up, right?
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Where there's a lot of people out there throughout history who have wanted notoriety. I can't say it right now. I've had too many beers. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Notoriety, yeah.
That's the word. Thank you. Like, there's a lot of people throughout history, right? So, like, nowadays, when somebody says some fucking stupid shit on the internet, you can fact check the shit out of them. You can go like look at all their history, and you're like, oh wow, 5 years of conspiracy theories on their story. That's weird.
Yeah, just released from the penitentiary.
Right. Right. You could put all that shit into place, right? But when somebody said some stupid shit like that in 1857, there was zero way to know they were fucking crazy.
True.
Right?
True.
So now we have a bunch of stories from back in the day when you couldn't like verify anybody, right?
Yeah.
Or there was like no, like maybe everybody in town knew that guy was a freaking kook, right?
But 12,000 years later.
Right. But because he wrote it down and that book just so happened to get found 100 years later, now you're like, hey, this guy's seen some stuff. You know, so that's the part with ghosts and aliens and all the things that you have to really take into like consideration is there's a lot of people that just make shit up,
Yeah.
and there's a couple of different versions of those people. Like some of them just make stuff up, right?
Hmm.
But some of them make stuff up and truly believe what they made up.
Yeah.
Those ones
Yeah.
are like extremely they're definitely more dangerous than the ones that just make things up.
Right. Right. Because they can do it with so much passion and
Yeah.
make you
Yeah.
really believe it. But boy, when you have these military, high-ranking, intelligent officials coming up and saying, "Yeah, we've seen things that we don't understand, and there are
Yeah.
things of non-Earth or non like
Yeah.
what? Wait,
Yeah.
what?"
Yeah. So that's what I was getting on with the ghost thing, though. I feel like there's a lot of people with the ghost thing that's definitely more their mind or more circumstance or more the substances that them and their friends were hanging out with. You,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, like I feel like with ghosts, that's a lot more likely. But with the some of the alien stuff, it's like, man, I don't know. There's no way to explain that,
Right.
like that specific thing.
Yeah. It's hard to bury that story, right? The ghost thing
Yeah,
could be someone's imagination or what have you, but
it could be like
I
a shadow from here to there, or you know what I mean? Like
right.
such a little thing, and you're like, did you hear that noise?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast where he swore that he saw a wolf when he was out hunting, and it turned out to be a chipmunk at a distance.
Yeah.
That's how crazy his mind was. Your mind can play tricks on you. You just
Yeah, and not only that is also the way that you remember things. I mean, this is very true in court cases as well. Like your memory is really influential. Like it can be influenced easily. And um so like initially you saw this and then you started thinking about it. And then you can change you can change your memory by just being led a certain direction or like overthinking it, and now all of a sudden you're like, no, I saw a guy wearing a pink shirt shoot that person, right? But realistically, like if it would have been like right when it happened, it's like, no, yellow shirt, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
as you think about it, you're whatever reason it turns to pink, and you can like you'll swear you probably pass a polygraph,
Yeah.
but you're just believing something that you've like for whatever reason you fabricated it. Like your memory could be very. Put it this way, how many times have you told a story so many times that was like a funny situation that maybe it was one of your friends' stories or something like that, and after like 10 years of telling this story, you almost think you were there. Was I there?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
I'm
Just
trying to
last
give it like and that like maybe a little bit of stretch of what I'm talking about, but like I've definitely had those circumstances where it's like, was that me or was that my friend's I can't remember anymore. Was that my
yeah.
friend's story or my story? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And if you believe it, it's your story. But in fact, it could have been your friend's story. That's
Right.
that's the hard. Dude, I had something like that happen to me. I kept telling the story about something that happened on when I thought was Thanksgiving. Turns out it was stocking stuffer day, which was like December 9th last year.
Yeah.
And this whole time I've been telling everybody, oh, it was on Thanksgiving. It was on Thanksgiving. Could have swore it was Thanksgiving. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
That's
I could have
exactly what I'm
swore.
talking about. Thank
Could
you
have
for
swore.
a better example of what I was trying to say. But
No.
yeah, and you would have bet $1,000,000 on that. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
100%. I could smell the turkey being cooked. I knew it was
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. It was
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
How? How?
Yeah.
How?
This is exactly what I go through with my wife on a regular basis, but she's always right. So
You're a smart man. You're a smart man.
yeah,
Perception is reality, and if it's her, if yeah, no,
yeah. It's her reality, it's reality.
it's
Absolutely.
reality.
Because there's a pretty good chance that I don't actually remember it correctly. So that's what I'm just defaulting on at this point. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right.
Well, it's crazy when they start like Betty and Barney Hill, going back to the aliens thing. They were the first ones supposedly who came back with the story of the aliens and the Greys, right? And ever since their story, everybody else's thereafter, the aliens look the same, the big eyes, the gray
Yeah.
skin, the whole like the big head. And yeah, is that made up? Is that everyone else seeing the same thing? Who knows what
Or
that
is
is?
it like the power influence, like what we just talked about? So once you have
Exactly.
that in your mind, you're like, that's what I saw.
Exactly. And you read these other things like we talked about ghosts, the NDEs, the near death experiences. They all say the same thing. I felt like myself floating above my body. There was a light in the corner of the room, and then boom, I was somewhere. They all are very similar to that,
Yeah.
you know?
I've had an NDE, but it didn't necessarily follow that exactly. So
You did?
yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you
100%.
can't just drop that and leave it there. Tell us.
So
We're getting canceled
because
tonight, folks. We're talking all kinds
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah. Just because tonight is what it is. And like honestly, when I started this podcast today, I was like, when you reached out to me, and I was like, you know what? Let's just get on. We're gonna talk about whatever the fuck we talk about. And that's
Hell
what's
yeah.
gonna happen.
So
So I've told
fun.
this story one other time on my channel. I can't remember. I think it was like a really late night podcast or like I used to do just like me hanging out in my garage getting housed, and they were just long live streams. And that was the precursor to me actually doing a podcast. So at one point I feel like I might have done a video. I think somewhere along the line I've talked about it. I think it might be like a short
Did
clip
you
from a podcast where I told this story before,
did you
one way or another.
bury it? Is it still out there? Did you bury it?
No, I think it's out there still. I'm pretty sure now that I've been saying this all out loud, because I remember looking at my thumbnails recently, and I think there is a thumbnail of this. So I got struck by lightning.
What?
When I was in Bosnia, and when I was in
What?
the military. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'll tell the story for those of you guys that actually tuned into this podcast to get to hear a
Hell
story.
yeah. Here we
Story
go.
time with Biker. So
Here we go.
basically I was in Bosnia. I was in the infantry, so my job was to like, you know, shoot things, right?
Yeah.
So and do
Hey, but no
patrols and
names.
walk around and whatever, right? So it wasn't like I wasn't writing checks or like, like cooking food or fixing trucks or something like that. That like infantry for the I don't know anybody that doesn't know what infantry is, but it's just a grunt. It's just like a regular old GI Joe. And so I was in Bosnia, and we were there for like a year, and we would do somebody said that's why I just sorry, had
Afraid
to
of
say that.
electricity, are you?
Yeah. So anyways, we would rotate through the jobs that we would do by a week. So one week you would do foot patrols, one week you would do mounted patrols, one week you would do guard on the airstrip that we were guarding. This airstrip, it was like the main airstrip that everything from the world came in to like supply the everything in Bosnia that was going on.
And then
Like
mounted meaning like you're on the Humvee
yeah,
out on
like
the vehicle. Yeah.
hanging out the top of the shirt with the big old gun and that kind of thing,
Ooh.
right? So you would drive those ones, you would be driving around. Then the foot ones, obviously, you're just fucking walking. That sucks. And then the third one would suck because like that week that you were on guard, it was 12 hours on guard, 12 hours off.
Jeez.
So and while you're on guard, you're supposed to be awake the whole time. But this is also 18 to 21-year-old guys that are doing this job. So it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah.
So anyways, so there's two people in these towers we're guarding a runway, like for an airport, if you saw footage of Hillary Clinton landing in Bosnia, there's a famous clip of her because she said she saw bombs exploding or something like that. She landed on the runway that I'm talking about. So anyway,
damn.
yeah. So she did not see any bombs. That was part of the clip.
You guys throwing bottle
Anyways,
rockets at her?
yeah, something like it was probably me and my friends. Anyways, so like the length of think about like any airport that you've ever been to, you know, and you go down the runway, like the length of that runway, there was 3 towers that were, you know, basically like a one room that's suspended by 4 sticks up in the air, right? Think of it that way, right?
Jeez. Good
So
grief.
like just one square with, you know, each post as the legs, and it's up about 2, let's just say 2 stories up in the air, right? And it's got sandbags on top of it, so like if a mortar comes in, that's supposed to stop it. I doubt that's gonna happen. And then it's like sandbags around it, all except for like one spot where the ladder comes up, right? So
Okay.
like the ladder comes up in the corner, and there's like, you know, whatever the width of a ladder is for that. Let's just say it's like 3 feet wide, right? So
Yeah.
like you can climb up the ladder, go in the 3-foot hole, and then inside of that, you know, you got the inside of your one room, right? And so like I'm trying to do my best to explain
Oh,
the
you're
layout
painting a
here so
good
everybody kind
picture.
of gets
Yeah.
it for later. So as you come up the ladder, let's just say the ladder is like next to one of the posts. So when you get to the top, the right wall like would be next to your right shoulder, but on
Okay.
the left wall, there's sandbags that are about 3 feet tall, maybe 3 or 4 feet into the room. So
Okay.
that way, if there's enemies that are attacking you from the ground,
Left.
that
Yeah.
you would be able to like be behind those sandbags and shoot down at them through the ladder hole. Does that make
Got it.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
the 3 foot will hopefully stop the bullets if there was enough stopping
yeah, I
power.
mean they're just the it's like one, it's like 3, it's like enough room for you to crouch behind something. So it's just like
Ooh.
one row of sandbags. Supposedly that's going to be enough. Maybe it's 2. I don't remember. Anyways, there's a row of sandbags that keep you like that. You can shoot out the ladder hole down there, right? So
Yeah.
basically, what it does is like the walking space of the one room, and let's just say the one room is like maybe 10 by 10, right?
Okay.
So the walking space of the room is like a U shape because of that those sandbags in the middle where like next to the ladder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, we're out there and we're just you know pulling guard on the runway, right? And if you had the day shift, that was probably a little bit better than the night shift. But when you had the night shift, you would do whatever you could do to stay awake or whatever, right? So usually the way that it happens is instead of 2 guys being awake doing their job, there's one guy being
One.
awake and one guy sleeping. And the guy that's awake is not guarding the guarding spot. He's just guarding to make sure that nobody comes to find out that we're sleeping.
Right. Right.
So that's realistically kind of what's really happening. I mean, you're watching your sector, but really you're just making sure you don't get popped for sleeping, right? And
Yeah.
you're doing shifts, even though you're not supposed to be doing that.
But for the bad
Right?
guys that are listening, there's
Yeah, yeah.
ways to know you're coming. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, the bad guys do the same thing. Everybody in the military ever has done the exact same thing. So
Are these things made of metal? Like the
no, they're just
structures
made
that
out of
they're in?
wood. So it's all wood, and then just other than that,
Holy
the sandbag.
swaying
So
palm tree,
yeah.
Batman.
Yeah, so
Jeez.
like the legs of the tower are probably about, in my mind, the way I'm remembering, they're probably about 12-inch kind of squares that were, you know, like the legs were like 12-inch each side of the square, like 1 foot kind
Okay.
of wood. I don't know.
Diameter.
Yeah, yeah, you know, just like a big, like almost like a telephone pole. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Big old
Like
tree
that, each
trunk.
one of the legs was a square telephone pole going up, and then there's this box up there on the top that's the room, right? So, anyways, we were there for a year, so there's all the seasons. So when it started getting cold out, they told us that we could they put these like 50-gallon drums out, like what they do for homeless people, or what you'd like picture
Oh, start a
homeless people
fire.
sitting around burning it, right?
Yeah.
They told us that we could have these like 50-gallon drums out there at the base of the tower, obviously, and then we could go down there and we could like warm up. We could start a little fire and warm up, and then we could go back up in their tower, one at a time, of course, right?
Right.
And you tell 20-year-old boys that they're allowed to make fire, shit gets out of hand real quick.
Give me another pallet, fellas.
Yeah, so it started out exactly, dude, you're reading my mind. So it started out with this little fire in the can, and then it turned into as many pallets as you could possibly take out there to make a big fire. And then it turned into, well, let me take 5 gallons of fuel and we'll see if we dump that on there too and see what happens, right?
Right. Did you just throw the
So,
can itself in there?
right. So this particular night we have foregone, like we forgot about we're not doing the can anymore. We're just making a goddamn fire. And so we stack all these pallets up and we dump all this fuel on it and we set that fucker on fire, and holy shit, if that flame was not as tall as the tower.
The bad
But,
guys,
like,
I wonder where they are. There they are.
like, think about if there's a possibility of a plane actually landing at the time. They're like, here's the runway, and there's a 40-foot tall flame right next to it.
They're under attack.
Right, exactly. So
Jeez.
just so happened to be like, and this like, because we dumped so much fuel on it, that fire was really short-lived. And also, like, maybe it has to do with like the time that communication has, like, hey, somebody tells somebody else, somebody tells somebody else. Anyways, keep that in mind. So right after we do this, holy shit, that's a big fire. We're like, oh, okay, well, that was fun. We just burned all our wood and all of our fuel in like 90 seconds. We get up into the tower and it
90.
just starts pouring rain. And
Oh, no.
I'm from back home, back east, so like it definitely rains in a different clip than it does in California. And it is just coming down, and lightning starts striking, right? So like obviously there's no trees on the runway. There's just us 3 big towers in the middle of the runway. And then like the tree line is actually probably about, I don't know, maybe 100 yards away from like where our tower is, right?
But now fully lit from the fire. Like, I see you guys out
No,
there.
the fire is gone.
Oh, fire's out already.
The fire burned and was down in like it honestly, probably the whole thing probably lasted like 3 minutes, if that.
Oh
You know,
my God.
like it was like we burned it so quickly, like it was poof poof, and it was like, oh, well, that was over. So we get up in there and it's pouring down rain and lightning starts striking. And I grew up in Pennsylvania. There's lightning all the fucking time, right? So like lightning to me as a Pennsylvanian doesn't mean shit. To Californians, if there's a bunch of lightning on a Tuesday night,
Dude,
it'll be on the news.
it's
Like they're
biblical.
like, yeah, like it's a big deal out here. Like to
Yeah.
me, it's like I don't know. I've seen lightning my whole life. Like, you know, like we have lightning when it's not even raining and it's like dry lightning. Anyway, so this lightning starts hitting, and I am not kidding you. I saw at least 2 to 3 lightning bolts hit that tree line out in front of us.
Jeez.
This is like 100 yards away. Like all the years of me growing up at that point, maybe I was 19 years old or something like that. Like I had always seen lightning like way out there in the distance, you know what I mean? Or you would count like how long it was from the thunder. You'd be like, oh, that one was close, you
Yeah.
know, like, but I had never seen lightning hitting like in front of me, right?
Whoa. Whoa.
But because we're in this box that has a roof on it, like
Felt safe.
we don't have windows. It's just like, but it's like you're in this like room, you know, and it's like when I say we don't have windows, it's because there's sandbags up to about like chest height, and then there's, you know, a hole up until the ceiling, and then it's like, you know, the sandbags from the ceiling. So it's kind of like typical, like think Vietnam kind of bunker kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but there's no glass is what I'm saying. We're just like out to the elements.
Yeah.
And
Open air.
yeah. And so these lightning bolts, they're hitting, and I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking crazy, right?
Wow.
And the guy that I was on guard with, his name was Jerzak, and he's like, you know, bitching about this. And the last thing I remember saying to him was, what did I say to him? The last thing I remember saying to him was like, we're not going to get any fucking sleep tonight. That's the last thing that I remember saying to him was that. And next thing I know, that you know, in the movies, whenever there's like a nuclear bomb and they show that wave kind of like going across the land and just like smashing trees and houses and shit.
Yeah.
I felt like that wave hit me, just like from top to bottom, just fucking hit me.
Jeez.
And everything went black, and for a moment there was nothing, and then while I was hearing nothing at all, I was like, oh shit, dude, I'm fucking dead. Like,
What?
I am dying right now. Like, this is it. I'm thinking through my head, like, this is it. Well, I guess I'm gonna find out who my maker is, or like what
Wow.
the
You
fuck happened
remember?
to that.
Wow. You remember thinking that in that
100%,
moment?
dude. Like, I remember this
Jeez.
whole thing like like there is zero doubt for like what we were talking about earlier. Like, you forget shit
Yeah.
over time. Like, I definitely do not forget any of this. And
Wow.
I was laying there. I was like, man, I'm. Well, I didn't know I was laying. It was just lights out to me. So I'm like, I'm dead. This is it. I'm dying. I guess I get to find out like what's next, and kind of thinking about that. And I was an electrician before I was in the military, and one of the things
That's
that I learned when I
kind
was
of
an electrician
ironic. Yeah.
was 0.1 amps stops your heart. That's all it takes is 0.1
Point
amps.
point one.
Yeah, that's
That's not
enough to
much.
stop your heart. Like, if the
Wow.
path goes right through there, like, it's enough to stop. And
Jeez.
so I start thinking about that. I'm like, fucking 0.1 amps stops your heart. Holy shit, dude, I'm dead. Like, this is it. I'm really finding out. It's like, well, I guess here we go. That's like kind of like what's going on in my mind. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing this screaming all of a sudden in the like way far away. Like if you had turned like it's like turned all the way down. Like, you like, did you like barely you can hear it, but it's
Yeah.
getting louder and louder. The screaming is just getting louder and louder. And as it's getting louder, I'm still thinking to myself, like, yeah, this is it. Here we go. And the screaming is getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And finally it gets so loud that I realized that it was me screaming.
Whoa.
Yeah. And right when I realized that it was me screaming, then I was like, I
You're
stopped,
back.
because I was like, oh, that was me, and like,
Yeah.
and at that point I was like, kind of like not in this like the haze was lifting as it was getting louder, and it was like, as the time of that I realized that it was me, I was like kind of back to reality, and I stopped screaming, right? And so the way that the electricity like picked me up and threw me, so my head and my shoulders were kind of like laying in that hole to the ladder, right? And
Whoa.
so the other guy that was in the tower, he landed on the other side of the sandbags than I did.
Jeez.
So right about the time I stopped yelling, he's crawling on his like elbows, like around the front of the sandbags,
Okay.
and he's like, Schumacher, are you okay? And at the time Pulp Fiction was out, it's kind of a popular movie. There's a
Yeah.
really like infamous scene where she gets hit with the freaking the needle. So
Mhm.
he yells at me like, Schumacher, are you okay? And I look at him and I go, that was fucking trippy, man. And like, I'm quoting the movie, right?
Right.
And and he instantly starts just cussing me out, like, fuck you, man. You could be dead right now. You're making fucking jokes. Like, this is like, he's just like giving me the like reading me the riot act. And when he's doing that, it just so happened, because the big fire that we started earlier, that
Yeah.
the fire department from the base was driving down the runway, because they came down there to put out some fire that got called in.
You're a freaking
And so
Schumacher.
they said that they were out about like 50 yards or so from our tower when the lightning hit. And they said that everybody, like in the whole vehicle, like all of their hair just stood straight up and laid down. And like
Whoa.
our
That much
tower,
electricity.
yeah, and the guys from the next tower down and them said that like it looked like the whole tower just lit up like a light bulb. Like
Wow.
so right when Jerzak's yelling, screaming at me about I'm an asshole, the fire department's coming up the ladder, and
Jeez.
they said later they thought that we were all going to be dead, but instead
Cooked.
they climb
Yeah.
up the ladder, and instead Jerzak's just screaming and yelling at me about what the fuck I'm making jokes. And so that was my NDE there. So
Dude, wow. That's incredible. What a freaking story.
I actually had like, you could, because I'm a really hairy guy, you could see the exact path that the electricity went down, like through my leg to the ground, because my
Wow.
hair was singed in like lines of like where the electricity went, like down my leg.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of
Whoa.
crazy.
Were the lines like crooked lines, or was it a
Yeah,
straight
just like you
line?
would expect, like how it just lines, like there was multiple,
Jeez.
like, like all the way around, because it seemed like the way that the majority of it must have came through my body, it must have I think I was wearing
Did
like
it
my
hit your
gear. There
sidearm?
was something metal on my side. I think
Uh-huh.
it hit that, jumped to that metal thing. It's
Mhm.
probably our night vision goggles. I think it probably jumped to that, or maybe the rounds that I was holding, and then like went into my leg and then like dispersed down my leg. So you could see like a
God.
spider web of like singed hair down
Wow.
my right leg. So
Wow.
yeah, that was
Holy
it.
crap. Dude, it's a good thing you weren't wearing like a sidearm, like on your chest
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah,
Like that would have been for sure lights out.
yeah.
Did they when they checked you out, did they say you're lucky? Like was
I
there
think
any
that everybody that was involved with that, so like Jerzak and I both were fine.
did
Like at
Jerzak
least
get hit too?
yeah. I mean, basically both of us. Like it picked me up and
Jeez,
threw me probably like, let's just say like 5 or 6 feet from where I was standing to like where I landed.
dude. And
And
you almost fell out the hole. That would have been for
yeah,
sure death.
yeah, that wouldn't
You
have
went
been
head
good.
first. No.
Yeah. And then there was also, because that lightning storm was like so active in that area, there was also a patrol of like 8 guys. You know, do you know what concertina wire is? It kind of looks like, it's like circular like razor blade wire that you see in movies.
Yeah.
Like the way that the perimeter of the airstrip is like there was like two, like let's say two on the bottom, one on the top, one on the top, one on the top, like kind of like a wall of that, and
Yeah.
then
No
like a space
climbing
of
over.
like 10 feet, and then another like wall of that stuff, so that they could walk a patrol in between, like one of those things I was talking about. We did patrols. You would
Yeah.
walk a patrol in between that section, and one of the lightning bolts hit that concertina wire and made like a electrical like wall go across, and it hit a whole squad of guys, which is 8 guys. They all got hit the same way that we did within like
Whoa.
minutes of when we got hit.
Whoa. Did
Yeah.
did any
So
of them m did they
nobody,
make it?
nobody, nobody died. Everybody like made it. But so at that time, like at the medic station for the base, they all of a sudden have like 10 dudes in there that have been struck by lightning. They're all like, their all minds are all like, I can't even believe that this is fucking happening. You know,
Right?
like, yeah.
First, we're
So
getting called in for a fire, and now 10
right,
dudes get hit by lightning.
right.
Did
Yeah.
anybody have a similar story to you as far as that consciousness?
I don't remember anybody else's stories like per se. Like my story is the one that I the only one that I remember.
Mhm.
Um somebody says, so do you get good radio reception? So like mine is the only one that I remember. I
John.
do remember though, one of the guys, like he really like was never the same after it. It like really like it just spooked in, like he just really like it really fucked with him. And
Wow.
yeah, so there you go, man. Free
Damn.
college with a side of electrocution.
Yes. Jeez, Robert, no wonder why you're so electric.
Right.
That's freaking
So,
crazy, man. So when you were out, the screaming, you were completely separate from that in your mind, that you didn't even realize
yeah,
that
no, it
was you.
like
That's
yeah,
nuts,
it like I said, it took the whole time, and I don't know how much time that was. It felt like a very long time. It could have been 10 seconds. You know what I mean?
right?
Like it
Yeah.
could have been
Space
30
and time
seconds.
is
I
just totally different
Yeah,
then.
you know what I mean? It's like when you have
Sure.
a wreck on your mountain bike and you're flying through the air and you're like thinking about everything that you did to get you there. You know what I mean? And like you're
Yep,
already thinking
that's
about like if
me.
I'm like if you're going to be able to pay your mortgage if you're hurt. You know what I mean?
Or
Like all that shit
totally.
happens in this like little space of like 1 second. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So realistically, I have zero idea how much time passed, but all I know is that initially it was black. I initially didn't hear anything, and then as I was thinking about what I was thinking, I started hearing the screaming. It was getting louder and louder and louder until I realized it was me, and when I realized it was me, I stopped. You know?
Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah,
Whoa,
yeah,
that's
pretty crazy.
nuts. That is crazy. That is crazy. That is, so obviously you think for sure life after death then?
Yeah, I think there's something. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I don't know. Like,
Totally.
yeah, yeah. How about you? Life after death?
For sure, for sure. I think so too. I mean, the only like thing that I've ever had that was strange that I can't explain is when my grandma was dying. Um, I remember being woken up in the middle of the night by the phone ringing. I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I heard my parents answer the phone. And then it was quiet for a second. And then I heard my mom just start to cry, just
Mhm.
crying and crying. And I had my bedroom door open and down the hall into the living room. We used to have those touch lamps. Do you guys remember those? You touch it
Yeah.
once, it turns on, touch it twice, it gets brighter, touch it 3 times, it goes brightest. You touch it one more time, and then it turns off.
I have a good story about that after you're done.
Yeah. So my mom's crying, and I know what happened without even being told as a kid. I just know grandma passed away. And I see a light turn on in the living room, and I get up and I think my mom and my dad went out there, and they're consoling my mom out there. So I go out there to console my mom too. And I get out there and there's nobody in there. There's nobody in the living room. It's just me. And then my mom comes out of the bedroom, and she tells me grandma passed away. And I give her a hug, and that light turned off. And then it turned on and went bright, brighter, brightest, off, bright, brighter, brightest, off, bright, bright. And it went faster and faster. And then my mom said, I got scared as a kid. And my
Mhm.
mom out loud said, Mom, stop, you're scaring Mark. And then it,
Mhm.
boom, it stopped. And that
Yeah.
was the only time I've ever seen anything like that, experienced anything like that. But yeah, that's all I needed to know
Yeah.
to go, dude, there's definitely something more to what we can see.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some weird man, I think that, like, our spirit or whatever, I think it's like our soul or whatever. I think it's just energy.
Mhm.
And, like, energy doesn't, like, dissipate, it just, like, changes, you know what I mean?
Changes, right?
Yeah, and, I think that I think that, I mean, and I think you can say this and still believe in God, like, it's just explaining maybe more scientifically what is happening, what maybe what religion is saying or something, but,
Yeah.
I think that, I think that reincarnation is probably, like, a thing.
That seems to be the common thing that you hear over and over again by these people with NDEs,
Yeah,
that, you come back to learn something,
yeah,
and you can actually decide you wanna come back and experience and learn something. I don't know what
yeah,
that means. I don't know if you're going somewhere or if that's what we're all about. Who knows? But
yeah,
that's very common. It's very
yeah.
common.
Here's one
Yeah.
for you. Like I said, I'm not necessarily, like, like, believe everything that I, like, come up with on my own on like, when I'm having these, like, thinking sessions, but what if what if, like, they like, let's just talk like Christianity for a second.
Mhm.
Like, in Christianity, Jesus, or, like, let's just say, like, God's an all forgiving God. That's like one of those things that they like to say a lot, right?
Yeah.
And but then they also say, like, if you do wrong in this lifetime, you're going to go to hell for eternity.
So that's scary.
And right. Well, and I feel like how can somebody be, like, all forgiving, but then also, like give you one shot and then you're fucked for eternity, right?
Eternity. Yeah.
That's a long time off of, like, one, like,
Long. I can't even fathom eternity
right,
burning.
right.
Yeah.
But, like, but if you think about, like, reincarnation, and what if we were in hell and you get one shot to make it right and get to heaven, or you stay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
And
get
it's Friday.
reincarnated and you do it again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that would work then. So it'd be like, hey, you can actually stay in hell for eternity, or you can get out.
That's a good point. And then each time you get a shot to get to the next level, to learn your lesson and move on to the next thing that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting
Yeah.
thought, man.
Yeah. It's just like shit that comes in. Like, this is the crap I think about when I'm climbing.
Right? So here's another thought that sparks my interest in talking about mountain biking and stuff. You know how there's always something new coming out. Like we had the new derailleur that you could like attach straight to the frame. You could drop rocks on it.
Right.
It doesn't bend. Everyone loves that because everyone's been in the moment when you're shifting gears, and if you're in between gears, you're like, come on, man, the thing's bent again. This sucks. How long would it take if a meteor hit us today, how long would it take for us to get back to a mountain bike with that derailleur? Or would we ever?
Yeah.
Would the version 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many times has this happened before?
Right.
Has I mean, and how many times have we created society differently? Or have we? I don't know, but I think about these things when I'm climbing too. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, if a meteor hit us, how lucky might it be shifting on this derailleur? Because this may not happen for another 12,000 years.
Or like 100 million years, right?
Right, or
Or
ever.
200 million years. Like, how long does it take for like history just to be completely erased?
Right.
Like,
And the
what is it? 13, wait, was it 4 billion? Is it 4 billion years? Is that how long the universe is? I think that's the age of the universe, allegedly.
yeah.
So it's like, so like we know we have some like fossils from like 100, 200, 300 million years ago from some dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
So like, what if at a billion years, like once it's a billion years, like you actually just can't see anything anymore,
For
you know?
sure. I'm
So
sure.
like, what if that whole like, what if we were totally on Mars before, and
Right.
now, and maybe during that time of us like getting smarter, we figured, hey, we need to go to another planet. Otherwise, if something fucked up happens, we're gonna all die on this one. So we're
Yeah.
like what we're saying right now.
Yeah.
And what if we like then made our way over to Earth and we were like, sweet, that's our second home. And then Mars got screwed, and
Yeah.
and
And
then we
then
lost everything over here, and it
right?
took another billion years for us to come back around to this derailleur.
Yeah. Right. It's so true. Freaking a meteor can completely so I watched a show on YouTube called The Y Files, and they went through something like this with Graham Hancock. And it doesn't take much to erase us completely. Like
No,
when
no, yeah,
if something were to hit, like a meteor were to hit, not to scare everybody, but if a meteor were to hit and the amount of fire and heat, not to mention if it landed in the ocean, the tsunami that would
yeah.
come and just wipe everything off. It doesn't take
Even if
much
it
to
hit
erase it.
on land, just the dust itself, what it would do to the planet would
Yeah,
like change the way that we get light and would make plants die. But it would, yeah, it would be
right.
fun. We'd be fun.
That's the Arctic winter, or I think something like that. Like if it were to hit the ground that like no plants could actually live,
Right,
we would starve, everything would be covered, and then ice age. And we know we've had that before.
right.
So and if it's only things like stone that would really survive, but our metals, all the things
Yeah,
that we have would easily just be erased, which is
yeah,
nuts. Super
yeah,
nuts to think about. That hurts my brain.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I mean, honestly, like even like, um, I mean, you watch all these apocalypse shows, right?
Mhm.
Like, and you think about it. Like, let's just say something crazy happened. I don't know how to make a derailleur,
Yeah, if you
and
survived
even
after the
right.
craziness. Yeah.
Right. Even the people who know how to make a derailleur, like let's just say the engineers that have designed it,
Mhm.
they're relying on the machine shop that knows how to like machine the metal, and they're
Yeah.
relying on the like electronic company that knows how to make the motherboard, and the other company that knows how to make the chips. Like even though we know exactly how it happened, like dude, there's chips in there and there's a program and it's like metal and plastic and it's like you need some gold and like you need some silicone. Like we know kind of what's going on, but dude, without all those other factories, we're fucked. It ain't happening.
Right?
And so
Yeah.
it's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna resort to one thing. How do I eat today? That's what you're
Yeah.
gonna do. You
That's it.
know?
That's
That's
it.
it.
And for weaponry, like, I don't know how to make a bow and arrow or a gun or a laser. Give me a rock, and if I could find some string, maybe I can make a slingshot to get food.
But I think the thing though that's really interesting about that whole like thought experiment is that when you boil it all down to that like moment, it actually like at least to me, there's like a level of clarity that um that's how simple life is, because realistically, everything that we're doing today, like, is for the exact same reasons. We just want to eat every day and be happy.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so,
Yeah.
like, even if you took it all away, we're still gonna like at the end of the night, hopefully we can figure out how to make a fire and sit around and try to make each other laugh. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're gonna
Yeah.
still try to do like something that makes us feel good about ourselves, mate. But realistically, the thing we're really most concerned about is eating. You
Yeah.
know?
And then there would be folks like us sitting around a campfire going, then there was a company called Santa Cruz. There was a
Right?
bike called the YT. Like, oh, come on, tell us that story again. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
fun. There were
yeah.
those trails, and there was a place called Starbucks. Oh, I
Right.
miss me some Starbucks.
Yeah. The next thing you know, Starbucks becomes a religion that, 5,000 years later, they're like, oh, they worshipped the stars.
What if Disneyland was excavated 12,000 years from now? What would they
Right.
think? Would they think
Yeah.
like there was this mouse, this magical mouse? Are you guys kidding me?
What I think about is we don't actually now build anything that, or we haven't for a while, built anything that would actually stand the test of time.
No, I don't think we have. Maybe
So
Mount Rushmore, maybe?
yeah, that's like the only thing I can really
That's it.
like quickly come to term like to my mind with. But like
Yeah.
we don't have a sphinx, we don't
No.
have a pyramid. We're not
Mm-mm.
building like our houses would be gone in like 100 years. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like gone. You wouldn't
Oh,
even know
yeah.
they're there. Like
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have
like,
anything in stone, right? We
right?
have Mount Rushmore. Shit, that's it, dude.
That's
Isn't
all I
it?
can think of. I mean,
Even like
I'm
Elon
sure somebody
Musk's.
in the comments maybe they can come up with something, but man, we're
Yeah.
freaking putting on some tinfoil hats on this episode.
Heck yeah, we are. This is awesome. I mean, these are all the thoughts, folks, that go through your mind when you climb. the thought of that is pretty fun though, just to think about
Yeah.
it, like maybe this isn't the first time that we've been so modernized. And if you just look at the last 120 years, I mean, even forget that. When was the first Apple iPhone with the app invented? Was it 2008?
Yeah.
I can't even think of having a phone without an 8.
It was earlier than that.
Was it? Is it?
Yeah, because
Let me
maybe
see.
you're right.
When was the first Apple app? Because that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because if you think about, I can't even think about the BlackBerry.
Yeah, because I remember the
BlackBerries?
company I worked for, we moved into our new building in 2007. And I remember being in that building for sure when I first got an iPhone. I didn't get the very first model. I think I got the like version 3. That's when they finally like cleaned it up. I think the version 2 was kind of like a little more clunky. But what do you got when you're searching it? I can tell you.
So Nokia had one in 97, but Apple's first app dropped October 2007. That's when Steve Jobs announced it. Apple would have a software development kit available for developers by February 2008. The SDK was released on March 6th. The iPhone App Store opened in July 10th, 2008. What?
Son of a gun. There you go.
Dude, there we go. 2007 by somebody who used to work for Apple.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then the people in 1920 were like, hey, in about...
Dude, check this out. The other day, I'm going to fuck this up, but Happy Days was set in like 1955. And
what?
I think it released. I'm going to screw these dates up, so don't check my math on this right now. But like, let's just say it was set in 1955. It came out in like 1972 or something like that, right? So it was like showing like a more humble time of like not too long ago. And the whole point of the little like reel or whatever was that if you were setting that show today, it would be set in like 2004. So whatever the math is for that. Like,
wow.
That's how. So like we would like the Happy Days show of today would be 2004.
What? 19 years ago?
Yeah, that's it. That's the spread.
That's freaking insane to think about. What the hell?
But it doesn't feel like that. You know what I mean? Like that much
No.
change. But if you really start thinking about it though, like in 2004, we didn't have like an iPhone. We didn't have a phone that you could look at the internet like in that aspect in it. Like it really was a different time. You know what I mean? Like think about the geometry of bikes in 2004 compared to today.
Yeah. There's just
You know?
big, yeah, that's crazy to think about how much change is in such a short period of time. It really does feel
Yeah.
like that. Because
Yeah,
from
so if you're into
1920,
computers, there's Moore's Law. You know what that is? It's
uh,
like, it's basically just like an exponential curve showing like how quickly that technology is advancing. And so if you think about that change from then to now,
yeah,
like this is really like a short amount of time. Put it this way. How about this? When you and I were in the 80s growing up and we would hear about Dick Tracy and he had a watch that he could talk to people
yeah,
on and see
yes,
maybe video on, right? And we
right,
just thought that was like crazy. Like
cool,
someday that shit will happen. We never actually thought it was going to happen in our lifetime, but
yeah.
that's really happening in our lifetime.
I
Like that's an
know,
iWatch. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
right,
that's an Apple Watch. And so let's just say that's 30 years, right? From when we were kids to now. Like, so what's like what are we watching on science fiction television shows right now that we think is fucking not gonna happen?
yeah.
That's gonna happen in the next 30 years.
Who knows what that could be? Portals, dimensions. I mean, it could be like, Robert, remember when we used to have to do these podcasts like virtually? Now I could
Yeah.
just like, I could blip over to your house and you could blip over
Yeah.
to mine. Like, it's
Yeah.
pretty epic.
What the hell?
Dude, I mean, to think about 3D printing like you have right now,
Yeah.
that seems science fiction.
I think a 3D printing is like the precursor to the not the holodeck, but like remember in Star Trek they had like they'd like walk up and they would like want some like, hey, I need a new gun, and they'd be like push a little button and the little door coming up, and it'd be like,
Yeah.
and then they would get the new gun out of the little box.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like that's where 3D printing right now we're seeing the infancy, you know, and eventually it's going to be you go on, let's just call it Amazon because we don't know any better. You go on
Yeah.
Amazon, you're like, I want a new fork, and you're like, boop, and then boop, they come out. You get all your forks.
Jeez.
You know, I want 25 of them in titanium, and boop, there you go.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's going
Aren't
to
there
be that.
Aren't there bike companies that are teasing that out right now with frames? Like, you can
Yeah.
literally print your frame that you want? I mean, I don't think
Or
it's
they're
about
printing it,
technology.
you know, like with their
Yeah,
own, like right now, like maybe it's like you have to, they're using 3D printing to make the parts that they're making or whatever, because that's like, you know, a whole factory that has to be involved in order to make that. Let's just say,
yeah.
compared to like a computer used to be a whole room and now it's on your watch. You know what I mean? Like,
That's so crazy, man.
so
Yeah,
like those time, that's actually like, you know, as we're sitting here bullshitting, like that's actually probably what you're going to see in the future. You
that's
know,
pretty
is
cool,
that like that type of technology just really becoming more and more and more refined.
right? I mean, how fun even today to take a rider from Red Bull, just right before it drops in, just boop, take them, and then show like the weather report and the winds and everything. Like, look, man, you better get your running early because my little gizmo here is telling me that if you're fourth in line, the winds are going to be crazy. So you want to drop in
Yeah.
now, and then boop back.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all that stuff today.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
How?
It's
It's
nuts to think
crazy.
about, man. It really
Yeah.
is. You know, I
Favorite
think
favorite bike for you right now, Robert? What do you? I already know the answer to this.
favorite bike. Like,
Bike, yeah.
what do you mean by that question?
Like,
Like the
are
one
you?
that I would like want to ride the most, or like the one that I
Yeah.
like the
What's
most
on
that's
your
in my garage?
What's on your wish list? Like, what do you? What? Well, let's do both. What do you reach for? What's your daily driver? And then what do you? What's on your wish list?
So right now I'm kind of like in a state of flux in like what's in my garage. So um I don't have all the bikes that I would want to have right now because I'm in the process of selling things to buy new ones.
Mm-hmm.
So real like what mountain bike wise, what I have in the garage is I have the Fazari LaSalle Peak.
That was a great
Um,
video, by the way.
thank you.
We
It's
put out
a
there.
170 bike, and it is very good at being what it is.
Smash.
My other bike that I have mountain bike wise is a Chameleon, so it's a hardtail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a very different types of riding that I can do with those two different bikes. So um as far as like would I grab the most, it just really depends on what I'm doing.
What
You
you're
know, if I'm
riding.
going to go do an XC ride, I'm taking the hardtail because that's going to be way
Yeah.
more fun.
More
If I'm going to do
efficient.
something, if I'm going to do something chunky, I'm going to take the big bike. Or it's like today, I took the big bike to an XC place just because I didn't want to put the pedals on my hardtail right now. Took the pedals off to give them to one of my buddies to try out. So, but yeah.
How did Fazari pull you off of Santa Cruz? Because that video that you dropped, it threw me for a second. I was like, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
purposely did that at the beginning too, because I thought it would be funny, you know, because everybody knows me as a Santa Cruz guy, right?
yeah.
Um, I was just talking to, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but he's been on my show a few times from Fazari. So like their main, not marketing guy. I think maybe he's a sales guy or something. He's always at the events, right?
Mhm.
And super cool guy. And so I just swung by the Fazari tent just to see what they were up to. Like honestly, zero
Expectations. Yeah.
expectations of walking over there other than just taking some pictures of whatever they were doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And start bullshitting with them, and one way or another, a conversation came to like, hey, you should try this bike out, you know, because I was telling him I was selling my Bronson. I wanted to sell my tall boy because I wanted to get a new tall boy that had the glove box, and I wanted to get a Nomad. And my thought process was that I wanted to have more suspension space in between my tall boy and my Bronson because when I had those two bikes, man, I would just take the tall boy like in chunkier and chunkier shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like sometimes in the Bronson, I would have it in shit that wasn't like it was too much bike for it. So I was like, I need to spread these two bikes apart so it's really clear to me. Like, okay, this is the one I'm using here.
Yeah,
exactly. So that was my thought process at the time. I was gonna sell both my bikes, buy the new Nomad, buy the new tall boy. And the only reason I was buying the new tall boy was just 100% because I wanted the glove box that was in it now. Otherwise I was totally happy with my tall boy. So I'm over there just, you know, chopping it up with them about it. And he's like, well, you know, you should give this bike a ride, you know, give it a shot. And I was like, just me being me. I was like, yeah, dude, you want to send me one? I'll give it a ride. I'll do a video on it or something like that. And, but in my mind, I was like, not thinking about changing from one brand to another. It was just like send me a media bike. I'll do a video. I'll send you your bike back. And that was fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And, whenever that happened, let's just say whenever it got to the point of like sending the bike, maybe their media bike wasn't available or they didn't have one that size or whatever the reason was, we started talking and it just got to be easier to like, hey, just send me a frame and I'll build it up. And in my mind, it was like, well, I'm going to buy the Nomad anyway. So it's all the same parts. So I'll just, you know, build this up, do a little ride on it. Then I'll, you know,
take your components off of there.
Yeah.
Put on a Nomad.
Yeah. I mean, because I wanted a 170 bike that was a mullet. So wheels and everything would be good, you know.
Oh, I love the mullets.
And so they sent it over to me and I 100% expected to do that video and sell it when I was done with it, like sell the frame, you know. And here I am still riding it. So
sick.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Fazari kind of came on strong lately at, you know, April's Astro. She's ripping now and she's with Fazari. It's there's a lot of great riders on that brand. Yeah, are they direct to consumer?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they are. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that like Single Track Sampler's been riding one for a while. He just got a new one. He's actually riding the same Sol as me. Like
Mo and Hannah, are they Fazari?
They're on Fazari, yeah.
They are.
They're on
Wow.
Fazari. So is Kyle and April. So Kyle Warner.
April's Astro,
Yeah. So yeah. They've definitely, you know, I think they're making good stuff. So
That's huge to get you away from Santa Cruz. I never
Yeah.
thought that would ever happen, ever.
Yeah. You know, the biggest problem that I have with Santa Cruz right now is that I don't think that they're worth the price that they're charging. And that's the part that's really tough for me, is that it's like, I think it's fucked up that a frame is $4,000.
Wow.
You know,
You
like
can get a full bike for that. A
yeah,
good
and
brand
even
full
they're
bike.
selling some bikes that are close to that. So it's like, yes, okay, it's their CC frame or whatever. Like, I don't give a shit, man. I don't even care. Like, how do I actually need to like state this so that you guys understand what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't give a shit that it's the CC frame. In my mind, like, if you're selling just a frame, take a fucking loss on it, or like barely make your margin small, because the people that are buying frames are such a small amount of people. Like, I feel like you should like maybe pass on some savings to those people, because it's like a small market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and see what they do with it. I mean, you have different
Because
types
they're
of Santa
yeah,
Cruzes out there. Yeah.
yeah, like it's almost like a marketing budget in my mind. You know,
Right.
it's like sell a frame as cheap as you can to people, make a little bit, but like don't try to make the same profit margin on a frame as you do on a
Yeah.
full bike. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I just think that like I really think that these direct to consumer brands are going to change the space of the not direct to consumer brands. Like, they're going to make them actually start doing things like, hey, you can choose your build, buy a component. Like Fazari does it, Transition Hat does it, Commensol does it. I mean, you can't choose every single part, like, but they'll give you some options. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I'm buying a Santa Cruz for $8,000, it sucks that I have to buy an $8,000 Santa Cruz and then replace another $2,000 worth of parts of
Ooh.
shit that I don't want.
With the
You know what I
DT
mean?
Totally, the DTC bikes, you can get 2 of those for that price with the components that you were looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
to me, that's the part where I think that these direct to consumer bikes really have it now. I mean, you work with YT, so it's a similar thing. It's
Yeah, very much so.
like, dude, you can get on and maybe you can't choose like every fork that was ever made, but you have a
Right.
couple of options, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
they have all the
and that
different
to
layers.
me,
Mhm.
yeah, like put it where you want. Like, why can't I go on Santa Cruz's site and pick a CC frame and then pick a transmission drivetrain and then pick aluminum wheels, because or no wheels for that
Yeah,
matter,
yeah,
because I
because you
already
have
have some,
some.
you
Right,
know? Like
right.
they should be like, in my mind, they're in the business of selling bikes. They should be in the
Mhm,
business of selling bikes. And
mhm.
yeah, have the package for the people that are like, hey, I don't know what the hell I want. I just want to see some models. Like, let that be there for them. But I
Yeah,
think that there's a lot of people out there, like at least in my friend groups, like all of us have our own, like we like these are the things that I want. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I want one-up bars. I want EXT suspension. I want a one-up dropper. I want, these Project 321 hubs. I
mhm.
want a transmission. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
why should I buy a bike that has a bunch of parts that I either need to sell, or like, I don't know, like put it back on the bike whenever I decide to sell it?
yeah.
Like, I should be able to buy the bike that I want.
It's hard because if some of those companies that are not DTC, they have the whole bike shops involved too. So like you can't do one thing one off because then it's going to be hard for the bike shops that you're supporting, and it's just a big ship to turn sometimes, I think. Unless you're a company like Giant, who's just huge and they could do
Yeah.
a lot of good things there too. But man, in the middle right there, it's
But I
got to be
think, like, if
tough.
you had a really good shop, at least this has been my experience. If I had a really good shop that I was buying a bike from, and I went in there and I told them, "Hey, I don't want that SDG dropper that Santa Cruz is putting on there. I want a one up." Like, they would put the one up
Right.
on there for me, and they would figure out how to get rid of the SDG.
Yeah.
So, like, what
That's a
you're
good bike
saying
shop.
is like that, and that to me is like what a bike shop should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's how they stand out, right? So what you're saying is like, like the bike shop should be able to do that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
maybe it would even work out for them. Like if they're getting let's say that they're doing a build like that, they can just contact Santa Cruz and be like, hey, these are the parts that I need for this build. And then we're going to source these other ones from us. And it works out for both of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could. I do remember talking to a bike shop and they had inventory, but the company itself went on sale to the consumers. So they went into the bike shops going, hey, this bike I saw advertised at 30% off, but the bike shop had already purchased it at full price. So it was kind of like there was a lag in the system, which they were stuck. And then the solution is that the bike company said, we'll give you a credit for that. You sell that bike at that discount, and then you could buy another bike back. But it's
Yeah.
like, well, man, so I only get my savings on the second bike? You're assuming that I'm going to sell that pretty quick?
Yeah.
It's like,
I
it's
feel
hard.
I feel like what these direct to consumer brands are doing is they're disrupting the norm. And I think what we're going to come out of it with is going to be a new way of doing things. That's basically, I think, what I'm trying to get at is that I'm not saying the DTC model is perfect, nor is the way that the bigger brands that aren't DTC are, like, I'm not saying that's perfect either. But I think what I like, when you disrupt something, then like it kind of works out in the wash. And what we're going to see is, maybe 5 years from now or something like that, we're going to see a whole different way of doing business that is very different than what we're like dealing with now. Like, for instance, like Specialized they're selling direct to consumer now. They still have shops.
Yeah.
So they're seeing it. And like, if you're the biggest gorilla in the room and you're changing the way you do business, like, obviously I'm not the only like smart guy sitting at this table. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
totally.
Like,
The other brands are like, all right, this guy's throwing a left hook. We got to learn how to throw left hooks now too. That's new. That's new. And then you have companies like Nuke Proof and Vitas that just went under, right? So, and those were direct to
I heard about
consumer. So
that.
it's like, how? But I think that was, and I have no clue to verify. I can't verify this by fact, but I think that was more of a financial backing pull on that. I don't know. Did you hear
Yeah,
anything
I
on
think it
that?
was like something to do with like the bigger company that owned them or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So maybe not the model itself, but man,
Yeah, who
scary.
knows, man?
Could be all
All I
3D printing
know
from
is
now. Huh?
all I know is what we were talking about earlier when you were saying, like, is this the way that the derailleur came last time or next time? Or I feel like the derailleur has to go. The derailleur has to go, at least in the way that we know it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes zero sense to have your drivetrain hanging down by the rocks that you're smashing through.
Yes.
Like it has to change.
Yeah. Have you seen the bikes where it's all internal in the middle,
Yeah.
where you shift your gears internally, and they have instead of a chain, it's a drive belt, I think.
Yeah, you're talking about the
that?
like with oh god, I almost said it out loud. It was so close. It's like what Zero does. It's the pinion.
Pinion. Thank you.
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool, but I still think like still has a chain, so to speak. I mean, it's different kind of chain. I feel like that would be a good thing, but I feel like man, we got some smart people out there. We should be able to figure out how to make like it not be a chain. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally. I mean, cars, they're not that we're cars, but I mean, drive belts, things that last for 100,000 miles, 75,000 miles. Not that we're going to take a bike that far. Never mind. I take all that back. That was dumb.
Right. I think that, and and I think that like what they're saying in the comments, like the pinion gears are still a lot heavier than current drivetrains. I think the e-bikes are really going to change this though. Because I think like once you have an e-bike, what he just said there, like, what does it matter if it's heavier?
Yeah. Put a coil on it too. It's all fun.
You got a fucking battery, right? You got extra 100 watts that you didn't have in your legs, or 300 watts or whatever the hell it is, right?
Well, if you're Robert, you can't carrying that for sure forever.
Right? But you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
so I think that e-bikes are actually going to be what pushes the drivetrain to change.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can see that.
like the only part that I see like in my mind that I feel like is a slippery slope is once you put that pinion drivetrain into an e-bike,
Mm-hmm.
man, those people that say an e-bike's a motorcycle are really going to have a
Their
they're going to
field
really
day.
have an argument, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Where's
there's
your
a transmission
throttle?
in there. Like why do you think SRAM called the new shifting system the transmission? I
Yeah.
guarantee it is because I mean, they've already done an inclination of it, but like their thought process is get you thinking that this is a transmission, and
Yeah.
later you're going to have an automatic transmission just like you had in your car. And
Yeah.
eventually
Right.
you're going to stop having a manual. Like,
Yeah.
like when we were in the 80s and you would tell people every car in the world is going to be an automatic, people would be like, you're freaking crazy. And now every car is an automatic. Nobody even knows how to drive a manual. You know what
Dude,
I mean?
totally. I took my car, which is a manual stick shift 6-speed, to valet the other day for dinner. They literally asked me to
Could not
park it
park
myself.
it.
Yeah. He said, "Excuse me, can you park this yourself?" I was like, "Really? Can I just park it up front?" It's pretty epic.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now, with the whole flight attendant on the shocks, are you alluding to the fact that at some point the bike's going to shift itself, like when we're
It
climbing
already
and stuff?
does. SRAM already has that technology where it will shift on its own.
Stop it! Really?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know what they're using. I'd love to have somebody. I actually have a friend that's an engineer for SRAM, but I don't think he works in the train section. But I would love to talk to somebody about like what their algorithm, like how they're figuring that out. Like, are
Yeah.
they using like how many watts that you're putting? Are they using the cadence? Are they using like
Right.
a mixture of because just like your car knows when to shift. Like, so
True.
maybe it's not exactly where I would shift as me. Like, say I'm trying to wind some gears out and really like get
Yeah.
in that red zone, right? You know,
Yeah. Fun
like I
stuff.
would shift differently, right?
Yeah.
Than the way that my truck shifts on its own.
Right.
But it's shifting good enough that I don't give a shit that it's not doing that. You know what
Right.
I mean?
And when you drop the
So,
hammer, it knows. Either
right,
way. Yeah.
right. So
Hmm.
obviously, if they could figure it out with a car to shift in that amount of time, they'll be able to figure out with a bike the same way. Like, oh yeah, the watts went way up, his cadence went way up. Like, put him in this gear. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But I
That's
feel like the
nuts.
thing that's questionable is like in the case of, let's just say we're still letting it shift on us and not an e-bike, like an analog bike, right?
Right.
Like you have like the difference between like a car and an e-bike and an analog bike is like you're the engine on the analog one. So I
Yeah.
feel like on the analog one, when you're shifting it, like you're gonna have to at least have some like maybe a push button kind of thing where it's like, hey, I want this to be like I'm a smasher, or I
Yeah.
want this to be like I don't want to feel any pain today.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
dude.
Because if you just had like one algorithm for it,
Yeah.
like it may not be shifting for what you're feeling, right?
Right. Interesting. So, like, rather than have our levers out there, maybe like how Porsches and other sports cars have paddle shift, we have like little
Exactly.
buttons, just little
Right.
things that are tucked away. So when you do pay the dirt tax, like it's not going to get snapped off or
Yeah,
bent or
but
anything
to
like
me,
that.
it's not even that. Like all I want is the setting to change, like one button,
Yeah.
right? Like I
Right.
could have the button that's like instead of this is the
It's
best
kind
way I
of
could say it in a car. Like you have like drive, and then you have like 1 and 2 and 3, and it's like different like gear ratios, right?
right.
And like those are for like, snow or mud or something like that, but it's changing the gear ratio. Like
Yeah.
that's all I would need. So it's like the day that like I'm like, hey, today I'm not I don't want to be in the pain cave. So anytime that it gets slightly hard, I want you to change to the easiest gear until it's in the easiest gear it can be in.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll just stay in the not pain cave mode. And then maybe I'm about ready to go downhill and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do pain cave for like the next 5 minutes while I'm going downhill. So I'll just
Mhm.
push the button. Boop, boop. and now I'm in pain cave mode. And now it knows like, hey, give this guy all the torque that he can get whenever he can get it.
He's going for it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Dude, you might be onto something with that. I mean, why not? There are so many people that would want to try that out.
Yeah.
I mean, Axis is the closest thing we have right now, right? I mean, those are little push button.
Yeah. Dude, have you ridden the transmission?
I have not. No.
Dude,
is it a game changer?
I hate saying this, but yes.
Why do you hate saying it? What's wrong with it? It sounds awesome.
Like part of it is like, I don't feel like they should have been like, I don't know why, but it's just like, dude, the Axis when it came out, honestly, it was, to me, just not having to run a cable, it's worth it. Period.
Yeah.
Like I don't even care. Like I don't even care if it's the exact same shifting performance as a cable, but there's no cable. That's good enough for me. Right? Like, but let's be realistic. Like when Axis came out, or let's just say like traditional Access, like original Access, that you put it on your bike on a brand new build and everything shifts like perfectly. And you're like, oh my God, this thing was sent from Jesus. And then you ride it for like a month or two, and then you bang it off a bunch of rocks, and your buddy like borrows your bike and drops it down a hill, and like all this other shit happens. Your derailleur hanger gets bent a little bit. And for the rest of your life, after those first couple of months, that thing never shifts like Jesus anymore.
Yeah, especially under load. Right.
Yeah,
totally.
It's still great because there's no fucking cable you have to deal with. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay with that. And I also like the fact that it's like, I'm not pushing or turning a knob on a possibly greasy cable or dirty cable. I'm like just electronically saying move over a millimeter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that cool sound.
Like, yeah, it's great. But man, if they didn't freaking take all those problems and fix it with this new one, like I ride some pretty chunky shit. I am not very good at like, I'm a good mechanic when I actually work on my bike. But what I typically do is, oh, that's creaking. I'm going to ride this for 6 more weeks, thinking about how I'm going to fix it as it's creaking until it gets so bad that I like, I'm going to either burn this bike or fix it. And then I'll fix it.
It starts to bother your friends.
Right. Exactly. And dude, I've beat the shit out of this drivetrain. And I will say at this point, like, it's definitely not like little baby Jesus shifting all the gears for me anymore. Like there's definitely some things happening, but it's so minuscule compared to any other drivetrain I ever used in my entire life. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it is that good. Like when they say you can shift under load, yeah, you can, but not like you can't just be like you just can't do whatever the fuck you want. Like I have made this thing go for sure. Dude, like I've definitely like shifted in the wrong spaces, put in way too much torque in the wrong times. Like it still fucks up. It's not perfect. It is not like the transmission in my car. You know what I mean? Like that thing never like is going uphill and is all of a sudden like, like it's right every time.
Yeah, but it's closer to baby Jesus than anything else, though, right? Is what you're saying?
It is by a long shot better than anything else.
Wow.
Like even like the old Axis, which, like I said, I was really happy with it. I didn't realize that I was as unhappy with it as I am. The only thing that I don't like about the new one is how slow it shifts, which is also in the design of making it work properly. So maybe they can figure that out. I don't know. But overall, I can't tell you how, like I almost every ride I go on, I hit some rock and I'll hear the derailleur go, it moves. And then it'll be like, a couple pedals later after I get past that rock, moves back.
Wow.
Like, yeah. The only thing that I've ever seen like this, when this thing starts shifting like garbage, I know, and I had this happen to my buddy 2 weeks ago on a ride that we were on. His started shifting like garbage. I said, you know what, dude? I bet you your axle's loose.
Was
And
it?
sure enough, it was his axle. So to me, the Fazari has a couple of suspension points that are different than like what the Santa Cruz had.
Mhm.
The only time that I've had my shifting go wrong was my axle was loose, or those like bolts that were holding like the bars together or whatever started getting loose. Or it's
Wow.
just once again me just being a shitty, like I don't ever check that stuff. You have to
But
break, like something has to be wrong.
but
You
not the
know?
actual device itself. The device
Yeah.
itself was doing its job.
Yeah. So my buddy the other day,
Oh.
whenever he was riding, and he was like, "Oh no, it just needs." He's a mechanic too, a bike mechanic. So he's like, "Oh, it just needs to be adjusted." You know, he's like trying to keep pedaling. I'm like, "Dude, I'm telling you right now, your axle's loose." He ended up pulling over. He tightens the freaking axle back up, gets on the bike, and it goes, pss, pss, and it moves back to where it's
It
supposed to
reset
be.
itself.
And
What?
yeah,
What?
that was it, dude. That's all he had to do.
Dude.
Tighten the axle.
Dude, if Axis is if they're if they're that good, I need to get one.
Yeah,
Damn
no,
it.
they are. SRAM can make a drivetrain. They don't know how to make brakes, but they can make a drivetrain.
Are you saying the codes or teach you how to be a faster rider?
I don't use codes. I don't. The best way to fix SRAM brakes is by Shimano.
Or TRPs, right?
Oh, I'm running TRPs on my bike right now. I'm getting ready to make a video about
Dude.
that
Okay.
experience.
Now, when I was riding and all I had was SRAM, I they were fine for me. I had code RSCs. I was having a great time. And then I did the thing of upgrading, or at the time wasn't upgrading. I was like, yeah, I'll try TRPs. I met Jerry, Jumping Jerry, super nice guy, and I
Yeah,
heard a
he's
lot of
such
good
a rad
things,
guy.
right?
Yeah.
So I put these TRPs on my bike, and I'm like, oh my god, now my bike feels like a Porsche. Like it's so responsive, and it doesn't lock up, and my e-bike turned into a trail bike is how it felt to me.
This is
And
the thing. I
wow.
always tell you the best way to know that you have shitty brakes is to buy better ones.
Then
Because you're always 100% used to what you're using.
Yes.
And then once you get better ones, you're like, oh my God. Now I
Yes.
realize what I was doing wrong.
Dude, I felt that so hard on the TRPs. And then I recently upgraded the TRP levers, the stock levers, to the Freedom Coast levers with that 12mm
So
drop. What the
So good.
heck?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
All I gotta say is the Freedom Coast levers are much closer to a Shimano lever than the TRP lever is. So
Uh-huh.
it goes back to the fact of me saying that Shimano knows how to make brakes. That's all. I think
Yes.
there's some people that like the original TRP levers, but I think the original TRP levers are closer to Moto levers. So
Okay.
they don't have that crook that like really holds your one finger. And with the Saints that I use from Shimano, they're very similar shape, where it's like it is one finger that you're using and that's it.
Yeah.
And I haven't used SRAM in years. Every time I have, like, well, actually, I have. I went on an e-bike ride recently, and that
They're
bike
on
had
there.
SRAMs on it, and
Yeah.
I can tell you the first 30 seconds of my ride when I pulled the brakes and I was like, these are not stopping. I knew that this is SRAM. This is what happens.
Yeah. You're like, no new NDEs today, please.
Yeah, right. I will say that I think that that everybody has their own ride style, and everybody has their own preference. And this is like, if I was to break it down really, really easily, SRAM has, and I'm going to say this just to like appease their marketing people, the most modulation. So,
Yeah,
and
that makes
then,
sense.
so there's like basically how much you pull through that brake stroke until it's actually like completely locked up. And it's
Mhm.
like if you think of it as like a curve, like as you're pulling it, it's like the percentage of how much braking you're getting is going up, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then TRP is faster than that, and Santa Cruz is faster, or sorry, and Shimano is faster than
Shimano.
that. So
Yeah.
like I can definitely tell that the TRPs hit a lot harder than the SRAMs that I've used, but they
Mhm.
are not as fast as my Saints. Like
Yeah.
for like 100% I don't know if you call it my scientific discovery,
Hypothesis.
science
Say
hypothesis. There you go. That
it.
I've been working is like I used to have Saints on all my bikes. And with this new bike, I put the TRPs on because I heard so many people talking about them. I met Jerry as well. Really like wanted to like try them out, see what everybody's
Mhm,
talking about.
mhm.
And so I still have Saints on my hardtail, and I have the TRPs on my big
Bizarre.
bike.
Okay.
And I have problems with over braking when I'm on my hardtail because I'm so used to pulling the TRPs harder
Mm.
than when I get on my Saints. Like I've had an issue the last ride I did on my hardtail, like where I was doing some big rock rolls and it was making my back tire like slide out because I was
Locked
braking
up.
too hard. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Where that just tells me like oh, this is definitely like the modulation where I personally like that Shimano like off and on, and I don't want a lot of space in between.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some certain my one buddy says I know he's listening because I got a couple texts from stuff we were saying, but like
He's
uh
like he's like,
like
"Please stop talking about that."
yeah, yeah, right. He's like, no more alien. No, but like he made a really good point that like maybe that modulation works better for different areas where you're really having to be sensitive with how you're braking. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
like
Super
maybe some
steep.
like huge rock like Squamish rolls, or like
Sure.
maybe there's like weird ladders that you do up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a
Like
good point.
maybe that makes more sense for that, but for the type of riding that I do, I it doesn't make sense for me. I mean, and the way that I think about it is like your brain gets used to it. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's what's happening with my TRPs and my Saints between the
Mhm,
two bikes.
mhm.
But and if I was switching in between those bikes enough, I actually wouldn't have a problem. But um yeah, I just don't like it. So
Yeah,
those guys over at Freedom Coast, they need to make some Shimano levers,
levers.
not because the Shimano levers are bad, but because I want different colors.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, in my brain, I'm coming from the SRAM because that's what comes on the YT bikes,
Hmm.
and, the Code RSCs, I mean, I thought they were fine, and then I got on the TRPs, and it's definitely more performance for me, it feels like it, and I pull a lot of brake because I'm still, on that big learning curve, but, they said TRPs feel more, I guess, in between a SRAM and a
Yeah.
Shimano, like
Yeah.
modulation-wise, and so I feel like it's a happy place for me to be on
Yeah.
those
They
those
100% do. I mean, you said in one sentence what I said in like 5 minutes. So
Oh,
like,
that's why you
but
tell
like,
epic stories, I love
yeah,
that, though.
but try changing. I'm assuming you're still using the TRP like pads that came with them.
The last time actually, interesting enough, the last time when I was in Bentonville on the airplane, my brakes got contaminated. I don't know how. But when I landed in Bentonville, the SRAM folks, the tent was right across from YT. And the guys over there said if I use the wingless brake pads, it'll actually fit in the TRP. And they came over and they dropped some new pads in there for me. And so I'm using the SRAM pads
So you
right
can
now.
use any Shimano pad in there too. It's actually the same one, but try the MTX pads. They are
MTX.
MTX.
Oh,
So like for your size, the red ones is what you want.
okay.
Um, they make less noise than the regular TRP ones, and they definitely like break way better.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
What are they? Are they porcelain or something? Or what are they made out
I
of?
don't know. They're made out of like
They're just
little baby
baby
Jesus.
Jesus, it's
Yeah,
baby Jesus.
little baby
I
Jesus.
need
Yeah.
miracles when I ride, Robert, so I will definitely check those out.
Yeah, they have a gold one as well, which I'm gonna try. They're supposed to be more for e-bikes, so they're supposed to have even more bite. So it's gonna be. I want to try them before I actually take these off and just sell them
Mhm.
because I really like the way they look, and I really I like the Freedom Coast levers, and and I just want them to work for me. And
Yeah,
so I have the red pads in. I really like those red MTFs. They're way better than the original ones. The original ones, they made a lot of noise, at least in my perspective. I didn't like that. These are much quieter, but they don't have as much bite as I want. And from what I understand is those gold MTX ones are supposed to be even stronger bite. So
Gee.
judging by how much of a difference they made to when I first tried the red ones, even somebody saying in the comments they love the red ones. I'm gonna roll the dice on the gold ones, and then if that doesn't work, next build the TRPs are gone. I would actually take the TRPs off right now and put the Shimano's on if I wasn't so lazy that I don't want to bleed my brakes again.
Well, does the Shimano's, are they mineral oil too? Like the TRPs?
Yeah.
They are. Okay. Yeah. I did like that.
Actually, now that you say that out loud, I'm like, dude, all I really need to do is cut the barb off the end. I can use the same housing. It's the same brake housing.
Same housing.
Oh my God, dude. I think
it got a little aha moment there. But dude, maybe the MTX Gold will feel more like the Shimano's inside the TRPs. Maybe. That could be a good solution. It's alien technology, Robert. That's where they got these things from.
Mark, it's been 2.5 hours, man.
Dude.
I think you might be the longest biker bar. I don't remember.
Really?
For right now, as we're speaking, you're the longest one.
Yeah, there we go, baby. Well, dude, we went down a fun rabbit hole of aliens and ghosts and reincarnation.
Brought it right back to bikes. Got to listen to me rant about transmission.
No, it's so good. I mean, just to think that 14,000 years ago, there were two dudes talking about their transmission on their bikes, and now we're finally coming back to it.
And Hancock knew all about it.
Damn him, Graham. Damn Graham Hancock.
Dude, I really appreciate you sitting down bullshitting with me. It was a lot of fun, honestly.
Lots of fun.
Truly was. Those of you guys that want a more bike specific podcast, go check out the He's on YouTube and all the podcast places. Is it just the segment if they search on there, or they have to search the Segment PR?
If they type in the segment, and they should see the little poker chip thing logo. And if they can't, type in the segment MTB and it should pop right up.
Yeah. So that's with the on the podcast apps as well.
Yeah, same on iTunes and Spotify.
Those are the only two that matter nowadays.
I know, they're so good. Spotify has been so good pushing the podcasts out there. They're not messing around. They're trying to get their platforms out.
If you haven't already, you should check out the analytics and stuff that you get from Spotify. It's actually way better even than the Apple ones. It's actually pretty impressive. So I was looking at that earlier today.
We're top 1%, Robert.
Dude, you are top 1%. You made it over 100.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. I think top 5%, maybe it's 5%. Somewhere you're in the top something.
It's good.
I think it's top 5%. They say top 5% of podcasts make it over 100 episodes.
Wow. That feels like a lot of responsibility.
Dude, you're one of the big boys too, man. You can't be telling everybody Biker Bar is where it's at, man.
No, Biker Bar is where it's at. You've been a huge mentor to me, man. I really appreciate it. And I just love how when I saw you at Sedona for the first time, you just pulled me right in, gave me the time and introduced me to everybody that was in the big Slack group. I mean, grateful for it, brother. I'm grateful for it. I'm a big fan of your show. I love what you do. And I'm grateful to have you out there kind of paving the way for the rest of us podcasters, like Downbite Q&A, Mia, and all of us. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate Mia. That's who I was thinking about earlier.
Yeah, Women's MTB Network.
Yeah. See, I knew I was messing it up.
No, you got it.
If you guys want to keep listening to a subpar podcast, please subscribe to the Biker Bar. You're listening on Spotify, and I think Spotify has a way to review podcasts now.
They do. Yeah,
so
it's new
over there, guys. Please. I got a bunch of reviews on Apple. Everybody over in the Apple sphere, they know what's going on. But if you are a Spotify podcast listener, please shoot me a 5-star review. That'd be great. If you're thinking 4 or 3, maybe swing over to Pink Bikes Podcast, write a review over there. Yeah. This is what we're doing here. We're throwing the low blows. No, definitely appreciate all you guys for listening. Thanks for hanging out, man. 2 hours and almost 40 minutes.
Awesome.
With
so
Mark
fun.
Hill from the segment.
Yeah,
if you're on Instagram and you're giving me a follow, swing by Mark's Instagram as well, the Segment PR. You see that poker chip on there that he was talking about, black and yellow, says a segment all over it. Give him a follow as well. It really helps keep us creators motivated, just seeing those numbers go up every day.
Definitely.
If you want to do none of that, but just something for free, remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.
See you at the